I don't think so.
Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody. It's Michael Jaco with Unleashing Intuition Secrets. Joined once again by Dr. John Scott Perez. He's brilliant. He knows a lot of different stuff about a lot of different things. And, you know, it's his pleasure to have him on. He's a humble guy. I like that. I'm a humble guy, too. So 2 humble men with a lot of information coming at you. All right, Dr. John, thanks a lot.
Pleasure to be speaking with you again today. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. And you know, you've been emailing me, texting and so forth, some pretty interesting things. You're a physicist, you know, you're like total brainiac, and you know about one of the major things for communication is, you know, when I worked for the CIA and the SEALs and so forth, communication was like at least 50%, maybe even more, communication, intel, and so forth. And you went deep down that rabbit hole. So that's amazing. So it gave you a lot of insights on the world scene. What are your thoughts about what's going on right now with the Iran conflict?
Well, let's see. What years did you serve in theater and all of that?
Well, I came in 78, and I left in the SEAL teams in 2001. I'd say probably 3/4 of that time, you know, a lot of Far East, Middle East, you know, and you know, and then when I went into the CIA a year or two after that, around 2002, 2003 timeframe, until I'd say 2015-ish, 16, somewhere around in there. I was totally Middle East, and you know, Iraq, Afghanistan, Lebanon, Yemen, Pakistan. So, you know, I have a real good background on the Middle Eastern affairs.
All those fun places. Well, I was just going to mention that when I did work for the CIA Black company that was bought by General Dynamics, our contribution to communications to what you experienced was around 1996-ish.
Okay.
So that's when the director of the CIA basically had a Black project company to do encryption for everything in theater and the government, including NATO. We were the first ones to pass encrypted video and through NATO while the NSA was watching, trying to break it, because they used to break DES. There used to be something called the Rainbow series for encrypted communication. Then after that was a common criteria, FIPS 240-1. So if anything that you did with high-end and encryption, we're talking about hardened keys and 120-bit cipher. And around that time, it was considered it was the same category of punishment as weapon of mass destruction. So James Baker issued the company I worked for was Digital Secured Networks. They became Fortress Technologies, and they were bought by General Dynamics in 2014, I think. That was because we encrypted, of course, the submarines in Norfolk. You know, that fun place, and a lot of other things in theater that we did. So that encryption, which started at 128 bits, today is 256 plus bits. It's in the submarine platforms. It's in the ship platforms. I didn't realize, actually, not last summer I was over here in the port. General Dynamics has a dry dock here, and they do work on battleships, intelligence ships in the old George Steinbrenner building that used to be American Shipbuilding, that did electrical work for battleships and things like that. So they're here. But in theater, as you mentioned, all of these ships are communicating with aircraft. They're communicating with people on the ground. A lot of things are satellite now. And a lot of that has been integrated into the SpaceX platforms. So you have encrypted communication coverage from the ground. A lot of it used to be microwave, especially back in the 78 era. So I have a lot of friends that served at different times, and they did different things. Like they provided microwave communications in theater, and they also jammed microwave communications. So they kind of did both, but that changed, and it started changing around the 90s with cell encrypted stuff. And then so you're using that, you're doing all kind of things in theater, and now it's getting smarter and smarter and smarter.
Yeah. I can tell you when we went from the PRC 77, which was Vietnam era radios, and we had them all the way up until I would say the 90s and early 90s, and it was tough, you know, getting comms and so forth. And when we finally got communications, satellite communications, and lithium batteries and encryption and all that kind of stuff, it was like going from I don't know, a brontosaurus, you know, on the back of a brontosaurus to like Ferrari. It was incredible movement. So you're there obviously during that time frame when that communication, you know, really lifted off and put us into a different realm.
Well, yeah. And I mean, the other thing is microwave communications is not really something you want to kind of be using close to your head, because you're going to a tower in theater, and you know, that can cause problems. You know, Havana syndrome damage problems. It really hits the OH bonds. It rotates them and wags them, and they're in your brain, and it does damage. It heats it up, and it's kind of a bad thing. But most of those people worked. The ones that came in, they did different things. I mean, I had one friend that went to Altel, and another group that was part of Eastern Microwave. So that same kind of communications, believe it or not, has been used all over this country. The portable stuff in theater, but typically up between New York Stock Exchange and the Chicago through the Adirondacks, those mountains, there's nowhere to lay fiber. So it's a backhaul transport. But yeah, microwave's been in theater for a long time. And then, you know, jamming your opponent's microwave. So that's kind of older stuff. But now with the satellites, so you remember, I don't know if you remember, Wednesday, Tulsi Gabbard testified in front of Congress.
I saw that. You sent me that. I was watching that. It's very, very insightful. Yeah.
So take a step back from that. My own personal feeling is that I was working with a NATO committee on threats to us. That would be the incumbent LEC that had 24 global data networks. These are huge networks. They're undersea cables. They're connecting countries. Or, you know, some of these countries we had switches in Moscow. These are huge networks. Okay, they're giant, and sometimes they're Juniper cores, and they're enterprise Cisco routers. These are huge things. I mean, they're really big. They're very large. And so what happened was we had all of these attacks on banks. And then we had water infrastructure attacks by these Iranians, and these up north by these dams. And then we, you know, all the time it was Target, it was PNC, Wells Fargo, SunTrust, Bank of America, and Morgan Stanley. So in my job, what I was doing, because I did that patent there, I kept my mouth shut. I was working with a team at Highlands Ranch in South Denver. I kept my mouth shut. Then I went over to the team in Colorado Springs next to Air Force Academy,
right,
where the lady that you interviewed last week taught, who basically, you know, had 10 people, and I signed up, by the way. I think her name is Tracy. Is that, what's her name? What's that lady's name?
Sandy Naricki.
Sandy, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So she was a teacher there.
Yeah.
Well, next to Air Force Academy is Garden of the Gods. And there were 3 wings there. And one of the wings was Black NSA and contractors doing stuff for the NSA. We were one wing there. It was an old Pros E-Systems building. It's shaped like an E. And so I got to go to that building. And that building, there was a team, and it's all the things have been rearranged now. The team there was called the Sheriff Team. And that team was the team that did and coordinated feeds to our friends in the alphabet organizations that the military had access to. This was the beginning of all of that. And other things like hardwiring, coordination, and whatnot. So that group of the NSA became Space Force, and then they moved down the street to Strider.
So, that's very interesting because when you hear Space Force, you're thinking astronauts and, rocket ships and so forth. But it's really, like we're talking about, that thing that is extremely valuable to all the agencies, war fighters, everything. And that's the, communications. So it's from what I'm hearing and seeing, it's mainly they're involved in communications. What are your thoughts? Is that correct?
So this particular group is, and so how that the segue into that really is I'm getting at is these investigations led me to the situation where my former colleague was Vint Cerf in MCI WorldCom. He's now Google. He created the Internet Protocol way back in the day with Robert Kahn.
Wow.
And so when I worked for the CIA, what we did was we created something called Secure Packet Shield. It was like putting your packets in a vault.
Yep.
And then we shielded that information.
Wow.
We hardened it. And then we did all kind of things like we created a kill packet. We were I was on the team that created kill packet. Kill packet is you have a piece of equipment like a helicopter or a Jeep that we left in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And I send it a packet and it self-destructs the firmware. So you can't communicate anymore, but manage components, enrollment, all the kind of things that you do. Well, that lasted for a while, but when I went and left that, I went in the phone company. As you mature, it's a very much niche area when you have telemetry access to manage the networks and do surveillance. Well, when I was investigating these things, I told you the banks and whatnot, I saw the Russians and the Chinese and the Syrians and Iranians and all of this, North Koreans. And then I saw what looked like some people that knew things about America that looked like they might have been rogue American assets. And they, were there. Well, my job, was to go across not top secret silos. These are business silos. And in the business silos, people have top secret clearance. And the reason they have top secret clearance is because the infrastructure that controls phone numbers and controls access to people that might be presidents or people in the field or CIA people, that is now protected and classified information as a result of, and I don't know if you remember, there were a whole bunch of movie stars' phone numbers that leaked out. Paris Hilton and all these people, and they were getting phone calls and they would leak. So I had access to all of those kind of things. And then as time goes on and then president stuff leaks, and now all of a sudden it becomes classified. So I'm investigating and looking at information because we had everything happening from traffic pumping that would come in across the gateways that would result in 80-year-old people getting $94,000 phone bills to Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, right, being attacked, to government attacks, to phishing attacks. And so what happened was, you're on mute.
No, I'm not.
So what happened and what Tulsi was talking about this week and what has just driven me crazy, and I'll fully explain it, is because the internet protocols, they're defective. Not only are they defective, but the switch vendors in Silicon Valley and elsewhere, the fabric that they put out, the fabric isn't designed to do what is called layer 0 management, and it's not designed to do checksums. So hackers break into these pieces of equipment, they change routing tables, they compromise routes, and they gain access. And then at the higher levels, up to the application level, they're sending people in the military spoofed information or targeting them. And one of the favorite ways for these people to target people is they've broken into, for instance, the wireless back office, and they'll call you on the phone. And when your phone rings in the call tree, it's pinging you. And when it's pinging you, it's giving trajectory information of longitude and latitude of 2 towers. You're triangulated of where you are. And if you answer, it's even worse because they get a longer read on you. But the point is how these things are used as a weapon system. So now I know where you are, and I know, whether I'm going to attack you, okay, as a military person, okay? The email. Now, this is an area that's sensitive to me because I get constantly attacked by idiots. They send me spam emails, and I'm like, I'm an expert in this area. I've been an email admin. I know the protocols and all of it. Email is the most insecure way of communicating with a person that you can. It's in the clear. Mm-hmm. Everywhere it goes on the network. So is SMS and MMTS.
Wow.
So what happened was, before this was a 2010 patent tied with taking it way beyond signal, taking your phone. Okay. These phones, CDMA 2000, they have 4 keys in them. Okay. And these are all on the same spectrum. It's like a walkie-talkie. When you're a kid, everybody can hear each other. So what they do is they do handshakes, and then they have a key that lasts 42 days, and it just runs, and it hashes your comms so that way everybody else can't hear you, like a party line from way back in the 50s. All right. So these are kind of things. However, those SMS and MMS, once they get to the tower, they go through a gateway, and now they're in the clear. So again, these are problems. So that extended cipher, what that was to do was to extend that capability with network layer encryption that went through the tower to your VPN gateway or endpoint, but also harden this, okay? Because the other problem you have with this is you have people and manufacturers in other countries, and they're cloning your phone. And if you're a CEO on Wall Street, now they're playing your stock, and they're stealing from you that way. And in particular, authentication with like near field devices. So the Octomom, part of this patent came from the Octomom. What happened was a nurse came in, Kaiser Permanente. National Enquirer wanted to know what room the Octomom was in, and the nurse logged in. Nobody knew anything. There was no security, and went in. So a device like this can be on your person or a fob, and it can virtual fence you into location for authentication of that kind of information, which is HIPAA compliant. Kaiser Permanente got fined $250,000 a day, but the poor Octomom, got abused. In theater, it's your life. Right? Or if you're hurt, it's your life. So that's part of this. But that other stuff I was talking to you about was when I learned that the problems that we were having were not in FCC jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So the federal.
Let me jump in and give a little bit of what you're talking about. Eventually, we're going to go back to what's going on in Iraq, or Iran rather. But
what's tied to it?
When I was in Pakistan, we were hunting terrorists, and they're using the phone system. They'd have like maybe a burner phone, or if they had a phone that we knew the number of, we would drive around with a device. I'm not going to give any,
a stinger. It's
device.
called a stinger. I know what it is.
Yeah.
I know who makes them.
Yeah. So we would drive around and we'd hit the towers. And of course, the towers, like you're saying, are free. It goes up and sends information. So we would triangulate from the different towers, because they would, as you move, one picks you up and then the next one picks you up, and they're like, okay, he's in this location. And then we send in a team, or we send in, a drone or whatever. But that's how, like you're talking about, I know downrange, we knew this when I was still in the SEAL teams. We were talking over 20 years ago. You don't have any communication devices, your phone, anything on your person when you're downrange, because they can track you. We even knew that all the way back then, but still people are doing it downrange. I just saw like a few years ago where this Russian guy, he was in this one town, and he strict communication protocols, but he finds a phone and he calls home, and they sent a missile and blew him up and blew up a bunch of people. But go ahead. So give
these are more, okay, a lot of stalking and personal type things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mentioned most of these aren't going to be in theater unless they're very hardened. Okay. What a stinger is, this is a broadcast radio frequency protocol, and the towers are radio frequency broadcast. So a stinger is a sniffer, and it's running in what's called promiscuous mode. Promiscuous mode means it just listens to all the air traffic that comes through and translates it into all the digital information and breaks it out nice so you can observe it and what those packets are and see whether you're in the field or Cessna. That's for the wireless communication. Well, the big problem that we have, and we've had with Iran and these countries for a long time, and we've had with these military people that are somehow media moguls in the Russian blocks. A certain general, that's name I won't mention, but it's not hard to figure that one out. These people, they are using the protocols that are defective. They're calling from offshore, right? They're calling from offshore in a VoIP communication that's on top of the IP, or they're emailing you, okay? And they've got a person inside the company that's already broken in, and they have access to some of this information, or they're just phishing you, right? Or they're going after your crypto wallet, or they're going after your bank account, but they're doing it from a distance, right? So that's unfortunate. France's aircraft carrier apparently just
that's how easy it is to get in there and find out where these ships are and so forth. We try and do keep it secret, but it's no way. And better than anybody, but that's communication again is massive in the intelligence and in the warfighting world. Right, so that again.
Well, applications. So look, even if you're a general and you do all these other things, you have a personal life, you have a wife and children, you have bank accounts and all these things. That's not just the big problem. Was the government is using these applications, and then you've got people and companies, okay, like Microsoft and these other vendors. And in my case, I was one of those vendors for these people, right? And we're doing work here, but we offshore work. And when that work is offshored, this is the epitome of the stupidity, okay? And I feel Chelsea's pain. Because I got tired of it Sunday night and went to the FCC OIG and filed a report. Because I'm tired of being attacked myself, but I'm tired of seeing people attacked. Okay, I'm tired because there's a number of patents here. They're huge patents, and the people involved are people . So the situation is that you have applications attacking people. You have it going through government. You have the dummy data with the guys offshore in another country. They're not Americans. Okay. God bless them. They just want to work. I get it. I understand. But that problem is that you put it over the wall, you give it to us. Now we go test it and we put it in. Now, those people offshore know where all the holes are that they wrote code in, and they sell that to some enemy, or they get compromised and it goes to some enemy. Okay. And that is a problem with me, because I sat there and watched this occur, and then I watched people come right through the front door and rob, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it because, one, you're taking work away from Americans, and two, you're jeopardizing Americans. And the worst part about it is that the military, okay, you think Ed Snow never saw my code that I wrote in CC++? No, he never saw any of my code. He never even saw the data. He got a feed from me that I created through the sheriff team to the government. No, he never saw anything. He doesn't even know how that code runs. That is the first blockchain code in anything cyber in the world before Bitcoin even existed, in CC++, written in video game double buffering from the 1980s. Okay. Video game code, I wrote it in. So we're talking about 3.3 billion records a day. Coding at that level is insane. That's the level of surveillance. So you think Ed Snowden got scared of that? On 9/11, I didn't have a 3.3 billion call data record system. I had a frame relay system in New York that did 80 million records a day, and that was like above normal before the Patriot Act and the FBI came to us to give them the impact. So 3.3 billion now, what today is a lot crazier. And I heard somebody the other day try to say, God bless him, the guys try to say that the NSA in Utah could keep 500 years of phone records. No, no, that isn't the case at all. Because, and I explain to you what the real problem is in a minute. FCC is jurisdiction in the United States. Those records that I had, they were on a global network. They were communication, a global network. Okay, they were VoIP communication. But 33% of that was garbage because they were spoofing the packet headers and the internet protocols and just sending crap through, testing to see what they could take down in denial of service, just trying to break network elements, and then cause phone bills and legacy billing systems to go through the roof. My suspicion was possibly to appease Wall Street and cook the books, but I have no knowledge of that. It just was a big vulnerability. So that kind of problem affects your personnel in the Pentagon when they get home and they're on a little civilian computer or a civilian phone. Okay. And that's kind of people they like to attack. And they like to attack them because maybe if those people are crazy enough to share information, now it leaks. And intelligence groups in China in a white building that we used to watch send traffic wants to do just that. They want to do that. They want to have sleeper cells in country come at you. They want to do it all. And that's the real truth of the world. So I do my job. I go across the silos and top secret areas. I go across all of it. I go facing a NATO committee. Okay, because when you're that big of a communications carrier, your people, you learn the FCC jurisdiction is U.S. domestic only. Once you go out of the United States, it is now NATO. And NATO is facing all those countries. And it goes right across from our people in NATO committee, right across to their country. And it goes right down to their country's government, military, and police. And there's no FCC in these countries. None. Okay, so that's where it is. Well, this is where things start to stink, okay? And they start to stink because now, okay, you see that we have no control of what is offshore, okay? Now, I mean, there are things like the Stinger, the P-8 Poseidon that can't be flown in U.S. domestic soil. It's supposed to be floating outside of the soil because the capabilities are so strong for surveillance. Okay. But the problem that is happening here is that as the world matures, and this started in 2014, I mentioned it the other day, late 2013, 2014, we were talking about AI. We were watching what was happening then. What I just explained to you with flaws, okay, coming in and we can't trace it. And now we're talking about our weekly PowerPoint meetings. And up there, I've got AI and quantum computing. Because with AI,
wow,
you're going to have where we are, where we were then, and where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things in cyber that Tulsi's talking about that have gotten worse and worse and worse, that have bubbled up to her Wednesday conversation, is that processor technology has evolved from where it was in the CPU capability now to CPU and GPU multi-core systems with RAM, okay, that are capable of running AI type of programs at levels that are army size. You don't need human beings. You train them and they go do malicious things. And they just do them all day long, 24/7, 365. They never sleep. So the whole thing is evolving with computing technology. So in the middle of this mess are the destroyers, the aircraft carriers, something that might be on that aircraft carrier that hasn't been tested over in our friends in DARPA up in Norfolk where they test the EMP or out in the desert. Those things slide by. Oops, I accidentally slid by. A chip is there. So thus we have all kind of chip security now affiliated with F-35s and other pieces of equipment in theater. And this is a really big deal, especially a big deal when the fabs are in Taiwan surrounded by China. And we have a fab problem in Arizona. The fabs aren't online, one, and two, I didn't know this. I'm learning, I'm constantly trying to learn these things, but there's 4 factories in this fab, but one of them is an entire water factory. And not one semiconductor comes out of there without water. So you've got all of these things in play now. And you've got the knowledge of the electrical circuitry.
Yes.
Okay. As a developer who codes in many languages, I was talking to Dell level 4 engineers when I coded that. I was talking to them about the architecture of their motherboard to maximize that for what I was doing in the software from Red Hat Linux Advanced Server. Okay. That's the level that I played out. The equipment that we had, a 911 is the same way, Sun Solaris equipment. If you're going to be at that level, you better know where your electronics is, but you better have your electronics tripwired in case somebody infringes it. And so part of what happened in all these patents, what led me to them, was the ability to do firmware checksums on things like a piece of equipment on an aircraft carrier that's in theater, or a piece of communication that's in theater that validates its integrity from the day it was issued to you to the day you're using it. That patent was prosecuted by Verizon, along with some of these other patents, because of what was happening in NATO. I was getting tired of it. People were getting tired of it. It was costing billions of dollars. The number that Tulsi dropped the other day was $2 billion. That was for her report. Guess what? It was the $2 billion that she saw. What about the other billions that have had cumulative for all these years since I submitted the patent? So Scott does his work. I just do my job, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just do my job. And the next thing you know, who's formally knocking on the door with a request? As soon as those patents went in the patent office, Attorney General Holder, okay, who I believe is, I know Jeff Prather. I know what he did with Fast and Furious and the guns. Yep. I know about this. He decided to knock on the door and ask questions. Well, robocalls, they've never gone away. I had letters from senators and letters from Julius Janikowski, former FCC chairman, and people were just tired of it. It was being abused even worse than it is today. So I did something about it because it was costing us in the phone company at the ILEC operational overhead, investigators, criminal activity, customers being compromised. A lot of those customers were military. That military traffic rides on our fiber. The military doesn't own it. We own it. Base center connectivity, all of these things. So I'm tired of it because I'm a patriot. I'm obviously a white hat. So I go and get the patents and file them. Then Holder comes, asks the questions. Well, who is the head of regulatory lawyer set at that time in Verizon? Ajit Pai. Surprise, surprise. So Ajit Pai and those guys look at all this and they respond with, yeah, we have this patent and the other patents. We've got them now and we haven't implemented them yet because there's a cost to us. And this is where people don't understand that the cost of rolling out this equipment is billions of dollars. You have to run and service the networks to pay for the equipment on lease. And that lease goes to vendors in Silicon Valley. And the cost of them building that electronics to put it out there is absurd. And they have difficulty testing it at that kind of rollout. So they fix bugs for us at tier 4 level. And we're talking about, electronics and line cards and all kinds of crazy things, but it's professional. Okay. And there's electrical engineers involved in your teams of people. So you don't fix that overnight. And so I Tulsi, boy, she got a poker face, that girl. I saw some frustration this time, a little bit of frustration in that there's more to this story that you're not hearing. $2 billion of our tax dollars is one thing, but there's more to this story, and there is more to this story. Okay. Why do helicopters fall down? Why do helicopters crash? All these other things, because we're now in an era where it's not just the men who stare at ghosts. We're now using quantum weapons and quantum computing that are going to unlock all of these things. So what happens to encryption? This was also on the PowerPoint slides. AI, now quantum computing.
Yep. Let me share with you another story. When I was in Lebanon many years ago for the CIA, we had one of the CIA case officers gathering information accidentally used the wrong phone, and it revealed like about 8 to 12 different Iranian double agents that we had throughout Lebanon, giving us information on Iran and so forth. Iran found that out and executed all of them like overnight. So the payback, as when I saw this happen in 2024 Lebanon electronic device attacks, basically there were thousands of handheld pagers and hundreds of walkie-talkies intended for use by Hezbollah exploded simultaneously in 2 separate events across Lebanon and Syria. So they Operation Grim Beeper. So 1,500 Hezbollah fighters out of action due to injuries. Some of them had brain injuries from the shrapnel they had the phone up to their head, or the beeper or whatever. And some lost fingers, all kind of eyes, all kind of crazy stuff. So this was something.
So the kill packet went from just taking out an element to now a detonation mechanism.
Yes, exactly.
And the art of creating a kill packet, I'm not going to reveal any of these things because things might be in theater. I'm not going to reveal it, but there's an art of doing this to conceal it. And it's contrived in such a way that even if this is where I mentioned, when you're going to put a piece of, I went through a GSA VAR into the military. Okay. And the company I was in, we went through VARs. Okay. And they're on the GSA schedule to get equipment in. These countries, they probably don't have such a thing, but that's how the United States, that equipment has to be tested. The the same thing in our data centers. Okay, you beat these equipment up, you test them, you firewall them, and all this. But the art of creating a kill packet is something that is so bizarre that just navigates like a fish through the system as a one little packet. One, and when it's like a trigger on a detonator. It just literally is. So it just took on a whole new life.
Switch. So they had, I guess there was some company that was selling the pagers, and the Israeli, Mossad basically had put PETN in those pagers, so that when the signal came through, the kill package came through, it detonated them. So crazy stuff. Now that's still possible in theater, where they could, fry electronics or create some kind of, field of energy that would explode, even in our modern phones and so forth. So
fires, laptops, phones, fires, lithium fires. Yeah. So when you go to explosives, I know you use a lot of explosives in theater. I know how to make them in the organic lab. And we have the building I worked in, we had explosions in. At the top of the building was a lady from DuPont who made the plastic explosives that the United States military uses, these kind of things. So you can put, a warm phone. Yeah. You can put pick rates in here. You can put other things that I can make in the lab that just need a little bit of warmth. And when they get there, boom, this whole thing's on fire or it's detonated on you.
Wow.
Not just a mercury fulminate trigger or these other things. So, you get in this area, and these are the plastics and the other things, and they're all in different categories, or nitroglycerin, which is a, famous one, trinitrotoluene, TNT, all these little fun things. Okay. Yeah. Of course, I was taught these things by Captain Level 6, full bird. So we did this in the lab.
In the Phoenix project in Vietnam.
He was, I don't think he was on that. He drove a PT boat in Vietnam. He was in Vietnam. He was in a PT boat.
Okay. Nice.
So Dr. Hargrove, he's U.S. Navy.
You might have delivered some of those.
There's a lot of Vietnam people around here. So
yeah.
But anyway, Robert Undorf, Lieutenant Colonel Undorf, he flew a whole bunch of F-4 Phantoms. First time I went on the base was with him and his children. He flew F-4 Phantoms in Vietnam and helicopters. He was a hell of a pilot. He went to Beirut when they bombed the barracks and did all that. I got a little off subject, but anyway, the point is, there are novel ways to make highly explosive things, and there are ways of containing those highly explosive things so you can walk around and drop your phone. It does nothing until you get the kill packet. And where I was going with the men with goats and quantum computing is, you are in touch with metaphysical ability and spiritual ability for the operations and other things. Okay. And that I've had downloads, and I'm into all of this stuff, and that we've talked a lot about different people having different talents and skills. Well, that one guy, that he just did an interview the other day, Lynn, I forget his last name, but he was the men that stare at goats, the one that caused computer problems. He did it with his own mind.
Sure.
What happens when we evolve to the ability to use quantum computing and quantum electronics in such a way that now we can cause you to have problems in your Black Hawk while you're flying, or something else? What happens then? And also,
well, then it can't be hacked, because it's your DNA, your quantum field, and I can hack into people's fields, but your connection with the aircraft, I don't know. That's a whole different ballgame.
Well, I'm talking about hacking into any kind of solid state electronic equipment from the atomic level with metaphysically, which is what this guy did to shut down all this general's equipment. But, you know, recently we've had these other things. Somebody mentioned the French aircraft carrier yesterday in Louisiana. We had drones that we couldn't jam flying over bombers over there in Louisiana. We've had all kind of events this week.
Yeah.
We've had the laundry truck show up with explosives. And at Shepherd in Texas, we've had here in Tampa, I'm north of CENTCOM, and I've heard some things I shouldn't say. There's some lockdowns right now. Not just
I know there's some lockdowns. That stuff leaked out, but it's been shut down a lot. I'm like, I guarantee you, there's stuff going on. They're not disclosing.
Yeah,
they want the enemy to know that they're being effective. So that's why that happens, guys. It's not freedom of speech; it's freedom to make sure we exist and survive.
Yeah. Well, alien.org and aliens.org. Okay. How weird would things get with conventional weaponry? F-16s and F-18 Hornets are quite old. B-52 is an old aircraft. It leaves a smoke trail. Those things have outdated electronics that are vulnerable. Well, you know, there's that Donald Cook incident. We have a lot of weapons in space now. We have all these other weapons or energy-based weapons. And what they're doing, okay, is they're leveraging all of the dimensions of the spectrums to operate on materials that are not explosive. Okay, we talked about explosive materials. Now we're talking about solid state circuitry. We're talking about chips that are architected, ASIC chip, different class of chips. And all I got to do is from space hit that vehicle and hit that one chip, and now it's uncontrollable and your pilot's ejecting.
Yeah.
Or you thought you knew where your GPS was and you had two KC-135 tankers, and I messed with the GPS and oops, one of them clipped the other one, and now it's down on the ground, and this one barely landed with the tail off.
Yeah.
These are the kind of knowledge that we have heard stories of from people who have been abducted and gone on these crafts, or and I haven't had the opportunity to meet this gentleman, JP, that is former U.S. Army, but I've seen two craft. I can show you a picture of a craft. Last Memorial Day, I had an orb come here. It was very weird. I had an orb come here. It was a white orb. It came here. I heard voices. I'm just sitting in the backyard. We had barbecued. I was sitting in the jacuzzi, and I hear all these weird noises. And then I sit up on the deck, and I look over, and I see a white orb, and it's going east. And I'm like, I better take pictures right now. Nobody's going to believe me. I videotaped it, and I took a 4K picture of it on my phone. It is time-stamped with a metadata. I can't lie about it. It was interesting. I don't know what it was, but my point is that the level of intelligence that we are now talking about with these orbs that have been spotted, with the drones that have been spotted, with the craft that's been spotted, okay, with your scientific imagination and what we're hearing, we're talking about a whole new war theater that puts conventional weaponry and solid states electronics in vulnerability states. So I understand why
the orb there was an orb that was videoed during 9/11 when the towers are collapsing. So it's been definitely, yeah, remember that. So
would you like to see the picture of the orb?
Sure,
I have it. It's real. I'm not joking. It's real. I can't lie. Would you like me to share this?
You're extremely intellectual. So
would you like to see it?
Yeah,
I have it for real. It's here. It's not a joke. Out of the video and everything. How bizarre it was I was sitting there in the jacuzzi on my laptop on this particular one, just watching Ancient Aliens I got up and walked over the other side by the fence. I heard all these voices, and I was like, "Oh, it's just the kids over in the pool or something." It was a woman's voice, and then I went over on the deck and I looked up, and there it is. It's there. It's real. It's the one I saw was white, and I couldn't tell if it was TikTok or not. I have a picture of it. I'll share it if you want to see. It's real. I'm not lying.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Let me share this. So this is where we are with the danger of electronics and communications. You think, oh, I'm the best. I got, hardened keys, asymmetric key exchange, high-end encryption. Let me see how I can do this. I'm in StreamYard. I haven't been in here in a little while. Where is is it over here?
So we down at the bottom, that little.
Oh, yeah, I see it. Okay, it's down there.
Computer screen with a plus on it.
Yep, I see it. Okay, let me pop this up first. Open it up and then.
But somebody in the chat had a very interesting comment question. My understanding on Q phones is DNA linked, no interference of hacking, biometric of your individual connection, stops the corrupt transfers that were for PDS, trafficking kids, drugs, etc. And then somebody else said Q phones will be quantum your own energy. No one can get in it except for you.
Okay. Well, there is, of the patents that I mentioned related to NATO, there's another one. There's two. One's a biometry patent. It has to do with a pair of glasses that you wear. It's a halo. It takes a slice of your head and uses that slice of your head to authenticate you, or a slice of your fingers, the material in 3 dimensions, or your leg, or any part of your body. The other one is DNA. It's a DNA as a derivative signature of your chromosome, either taken from your cheek tissue or your finger. You put your finger in and it pricks your finger, takes your DNA. So DNA is the holy grail of identity. These are all identity technologies. We could talk. Let me share this. Let me share this image file. Or now I'll share my screen. I'll just share the screen.
So Neuralink, somebody said Sunlime.
We can talk about Neuralink and the others. I did
implanted in your brain. Yeah, definitely.
I did NeuroSky for Judy Spitz with 3 ASIC EEGs. I know quite a bit about all the BCI. We can talk about that. So you see this? You see it? I don't know if you can see this picture. So there are the trees and the bamboo in the back of my yard that drives me crazy. And as I zoom in on this is a 4K picture. You see the orb?
Yeah, heck yeah.
That is not the moon. This is out there, and this is traveling east. My backyard is facing east. This is a 4K image. I actually have a video of this thing, and it's moving. And I was like, okay, I better take pictures. I ran inside the house to try to get the military grade binoculars to look at this thing, and it was gone.
Oh,
so it was moving quick. And I do have a video of the whole thing, but that happened. So with identity.
So was it just a coincidence it was passing over? Or do you think it was like surveilling you, or what do you think?
First off, I now question, because of the whole thing, and I have the video if you want to see that too. I was standing back there by that fence where that bamboo is.
Right.
And I was just pulling some weeds off the rocks there, and then I hear all this noise.
Yeah.
And I just, I was passing it off. The laptop was running over there. I was sitting there at barbecued out on Memorial Day. And then I look up and I see it. And it was, to catch it. If you don't catch things, then people, I saw a triangle from my jacuzzi come over the deck of my house at 300 feet heading toward McDill, and it was completely silent June 9th, 2006.
Wow.
that was when I had all the prednisone that I ate for my GI tract, that all these weird things were happening to me. I saw it then. I was on the phone when it happened, talking to somebody. So this isn't the first time, but this is the first time I got a picture, because that's a 4K image. The video is high def, and it's just kind of going like this. It's just going east, and you can see it's moving. It's not like stationary or anything like that. And then, but my point is that I met David Dare, talked to him, and these other people. And what do we hear? We all hear that these craft, we get all the physics, and talking to these craft, a lot of people are like, they have the ability to telepathically authenticate you with your DNA, authenticate you with your DNA, and allow you to control them, and they are alive in terms of sentient being.
Mm-hmm.
So is that an AI sentient being? Is it a living creature? The one area that I'm very fascinated with is the descriptions that we get are that the actual equipment, it doesn't have rivets in it or seams or any of this. So me with coding and DNA beings, or coding with intelligent, is this something that is it was grown based on code, and it was grown like an embryo grows to a human or a cow or animal? They grew to a craft, and how was it fabricated at the nanomachine level, where metals integrate, and have skins that you can touch, and they're all these things. So my point is that level of technology and evolving to it, now once it comes out, what happens to our conventional weapons? Our communication and conventional weapons are now, with quantum computing, we're sitting there in the decks, PowerPoints discussing, forget about encryption, it's gone. You're gonna crack it in real time. Well, what's gonna happen to solid state? So I had a drone phone.
Yeah, what speed, Sunline?
Interesting. Well, I suspect that AI drone surveillance will be used instead of helicopters and law enforcement on the beat, or even other things as it evolves, because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
And when you come over somebody and you monitor highways, and you're not in Cessnas and airplanes anymore, or on the ground, you're not obstructed, and you got a lot of you got the high ground, so you have the ability to take advantage of that. Now add that to an AI smart system, which I saw Palantir was going to be. I just saw a headline earlier. Palantir is being moved from military grade weapon targeting into civilian now, and I suspect it's being moved there to do these checksum like things I was telling you about, looking for integrity, look for your electronics integrity and your firmware integrity. It's a layer below, and your operating system and your applications. Look at the integrity of that constantly, because that's where you're getting hacked on 0 day. And so I came with 4 patents, and the patents were just for that. And then the next thing you know, I had a branch of the NSA inside the phone company that I wasn't affiliated with, asking me questions about files from Morgan Stanley. And here's not just a whole bunch of severance money, but sign this so you won't ever talk, which, forget about it. You can't go make people sign things after the fact. That's illegal in the United States. You sign a non-compete up front, which is what I did for the CIA, and you sign an NDA after, and now you don't talk. You don't sign after the fact. That's garbage, illegal, and a federal crime, and unconstitutional.
Good.
So you cannot do that to somebody. But they came and did that to me. And then I said, okay, wait a minute. This is just way out of control. Why is this happening to me? I did my job, and I've been doing my job. So I'm like, the banks are involved. And I'm like, Americans, not just military personnel, are getting robbed in their bank account while they're at work doing their job, whether they're Jiffy Lube changing oil or they're a CEO, whoever they are. I'm a patriot. I'm a white hat. So what did I do? I went to the FBI. When I got to the FBI that James Comey was running, they didn't know my identity. They told me I was born in St. Joseph's Hospital, Tampa, Florida, 1968. They told me I was born and raised in Utah. And I looked at them and I said, no, it wasn't. And this is when I call me sheltered, call me naive. I was just doing my job, making a living. I wasn't political and all this stuff. I wasn't paying attention because I myself was living in a bubble or a silo that I had people who wanted me to do things like that and want to take credit for it. So that's why that patent got filed. Or the manager that I did that for went and blabbed his mouth about top secret patent information to a vendor, which is a big no-no. But my point was, I'm a patriot. So I go there. I'm like, what? I'm sitting there talking to the lady. I'm in an FBI building. If you've ever been in one of these buildings, one over here on Cypress, there are two very large gentlemen. I mean, very large. And when you go into the building, you walk through an X-ray machine. They don't want you with anything, not even your phone, and they are heavily armed. And anything that you're carrying with you that might go in goes through an X-ray machine too. Okay, and then you go inside, and once you get to the FBI agent, you're in a very closed room, and the doors are quite thick, behind glass, about that thick, and you're sitting on one side, they're sitting on the other. So the agent goes, well, you're from Utah. And I go, no, I'm not. I was born in St. Joseph's Hospital. And so we're sitting there, and I'm like, look, you need to confiscate my laptop. You need to understand what's going on. Banks are getting robbed. And she says, well, you're from Utah and, blah, blah, blah. I go, well, there's a CIA file on me. It was created by John Deutsch, director of CIA, when I worked for Black CIA. They look at me. Then the lady's still there. I pulled out a concealed weapon permit. I go, you just did a background check on me 6 months ago. I go, do you know on 9/11, I did all the work for the FBI on your request through the chairman and CEO Intermediate Communications for all of it? And I'm looking at her. She doesn't know that I'm all up in everything that she's done and her government and everything. And she starts mumbling and says, I can't. She goes, I can't take your laptop. She goes, don't turn it in. Just don't turn it in. I go, lady, you have no idea what is going on here, do you? So at 2:30 that same day, because I went to them early that day, at 2:30, I had to be out at Temple Terrace to get my laptop and stuff in. So I showed up without my laptop, and I said, well, the FBI told me not to give it to you. And then they said, well, we'll talk to the FBI. And then they started playing 20 questions with me about backup devices that I had told my boss, when you code that much, when you have that much code, you don't rewrite every line. I mean, now I'm using AI to write code, but before I had a library of subroutines and architectures that I would reuse depending on what language I was in and apply it when I didn't need to create something new. And when you write millions of lines of code, you back things up because it costs money. It costs the company money. It costs the shareholders that company money. It costs, So anyway, they tried that at me, and I said, okay, no problem. So I forfeited. I'm like, I'll come and I'll give you I ended up meeting the guy in the parking lot over here and gave him the laptop. I ended up forfeiting a hard drive that was military grade formatted and 2 thumb drives that were military grade formatted. I gave them for 2 weeks. Okay. And let them do whatever they wanted to do with them. And then after 2 weeks was up, I called over and I said, hey, you have my equipment. You've been there for 2 weeks. And if you don't give it to me, the sheriff's coming over there this afternoon to arrest some people. And I got my equipment back at 2:30. But my point was,
excellent. Good job.
I had to do what I had to do. But my point is that, first off, there is no way in the world I was going to betray people that were in my country. That wasn't going to happen. And two, I could not figure out why in the world are these people. They threatened me. They were going to give me we're not going to give you your severance, all these threats. Okay. And now I'm like, I don't take threats lightly. Okay. I don't take them lightly. So I mean, later on after these things subside, there were some threats from me and my family. And so these people learned more about who I was and my background and my family's background and these things. But that was all unnecessary. And so during the middle of this goes on for years. Okay. So I was so upset. I made it very clearly to people that were able to make it very clearly to Admiral Rogers what the hell was going on in the phone companies and with phone companies that he might want to go chat with President Trump, who got elected in November 2016. That's how crazy things got.
Wow.
And there's a reason for that. As one, not just because I voted for him, is because I got tired of watching what started in Brazil in 1996 with thrown elections that I witnessed and was supposed to go to Brazil. I got tired of these exploits and I was working. Well, after that, what do you think they did to me? So the next thing they did was they hacked into my IRS stuff where they met a lawyer, and that lasted 3 years. And they made all kinds of threats. One of the threats, this is the most stupidest threat they've ever made, but I have it in writing. After I paid them, they tried to say I owed them $100. It was $100 and change. They said they were going to take my house for $100 and change. I told them to their face, good luck with that one. Go ahead and try it for $100. No, you're not going to do any of that. Yeah. But it was lawyers in 3 years. Okay, so now they tamper with my identity.
I went through a lot of that too. Yeah,
stalking, and it was stalking,
trying to destroy you. Yeah.
After this Snowden patent, the stalking began, and now the question is: when you're being stalked, and you know that you're doing these things, now you have to ask yourself. Once you see that was happening, okay, now the stalking that I saw looked like it was happening from inside the phone company. Okay. Yeah. I would see stalking, the kind of stalking communication stuff that you're talking about. This is what I would see that would happen maybe in these other countries, but happen in the United States. They would go to the Red Cross. Okay. They would break into Red Cross's system and they would get unfettered access to communications across the Red Cross's network and other ways of attacking you. Or other charities that we had donated circuit. They weren't even paying for it. We donated it to. Now, the only kind of people that know these things are union people and inside people, okay, that know they're going to come at you, or an intelligence person that is trained in communications inside your country. So I wanted to put a stop to all these things. That's why I went and did the patents and the different, the multi-factor caller ID. It's so simple. Caller ID is spoofed every day. People call you. They say, "Oh, I'm the bank, or I'm a credit card company, right?" And somebody's compromised your account. We need to change your password or your crypto. And I call you and I lie and I steal credentials from you because maybe you're 95 years old and you don't know. You grew up in the 50s and you trust everybody. Or I call you and I compromise you in some other way, as a military or intelligence, and now you're done with phone numbers and caller ID. That is the caller ID, P asserted ID, ANI. These are hidden caller IDs that are asserted in the protocols, not just in the phones, but the VoIP. So I got tired of it, and I got tired of watching myself get abused and everybody else get abused, so I filed the patents. So that's what happened to me as a result. So I don't have nice things to say about James Comey other than I was happy to see he got indicted this week.
Oh yeah.
And other people in the Biden administration and anybody else involved with that might have been in the phone company that might have been trying to lay off my colleagues and outsource top secret stuff to India or elsewhere. I don't have anything nice to say. I'm not going to say to you what I really think. Okay. But that day that I visited with the FBI, I was so nervous about that situation that thank God I had the concealed weapon permit, because I started carrying my concealed weapon immediately.
Yeah.
And that was what I had to do. I had no idea that things would get to the level they are today. And so when Tulsi talks about these things, I went through them on a personal level as a professional, just doing my job. I and after that, good luck trying to get a job, because you're so blacklisted. You are blacklisted so hard that anybody that calls in. So one of the reasons that I wrote these patents up and put these things in was so that I would have references, because on 9/11, while I'm sitting there, okay, this is the day of 9/11, 8:30, the phone call after the first building. 2:30, I get 14 spreadsheets, courtesy of Bernie Ebbers, who's now passed, but telling me how he's going to fire 4,000 of my friends and colleagues from the company I work for that he just bought, trying to cover his ass in the state of New York Supreme Court justice system in Brooklyn, where he's in bankruptcy court asking for mercy. That was at 2:30. At 4:30 was the FBI. So when I saw that, I'm like, okay, my daughter was born in April of 2001. This is September now. My birthday is on the 15th. It was a weird week. I sit there and I see that and I'm like, you know what? Then I went through that merger and all these mergers where I saw 80,000 people lose their jobs and I saw all these behaviors. I'm like, I'm going to live my life and I'm just going to start preparing today on 9/11 so that I can make sure that my child can have her education that I want her to have, and that I can survive for when they throw me under the bus.
Yeah.
Which is what exactly they did to me.
Yeah.
February 13th, 2015. They did exactly that. So I tell you, while I have seen all kinds of people, including people with military backgrounds, have this happen to them and have their lives destroyed. And I can understand why people have nervous breakdowns when they get stalked or when they get compromised. But the problem is not just as severe internally to us and what's happening, because our enemies can do this to us inside the country and outside. They're doing it to the branches of the government. So I appreciate Doge and I appreciate the other things, but with Iran and these countries, they have been guilty of doing, cyber things to us continuously. It's their agenda. And it's not just theirs, the Chinese and these other countries and Russian Bear and Russian blocks. So, where we are is we are now on the extrapolated Kurzweil singularity path to these technologies, which is probably why aliens.org and alien.org is probably going to be a real revelation in terms of what are going to be the rules of engagement now, and what is going to be ethical and not ethical, and are there going to be any boundaries once these exotic weapons come into theater, wherever they're coming from, whether there are deep state had them and we had them and we didn't want to release them because this kind of craziness can happen, or we have some other species living here with us that has been doing exactly what we just discussed in terms of quantum technologies and metaphysical things, and harming humans and their technologies. I mean, we are at this level now, and it is trajected. And the Kurzweil forecast is for 2045 being the completion of the singularity, but it's happening. That projection, that was a forecast. You make a forecast that's intelligent person saying, well, I think it's going to happen out here. No, it's happening. It's happening now.
I agree. Everything's speeded up massively.
And this week, one of the big things that we had was NVIDIA conference. And one of the huge things that I was concerned about because of all of the cyber hacking in the data centers and concern, the revelation this week is of a GPU core set that has RAM right up next to it. And the value of that, so what happened here with this patent? What happened here with this patent was I had Dell equipment that was using what is called the SAN plane. The SAN plane is a 10 gigabit Ethernet network in the back of a data center that goes to a huge DMX 5000 or whatever EMC storage calls it now. It has all your data in it. And the person that wrote the code was sending millions of packets back and forth off the SAN. And I took those packets off the SAN and I put them in DRAM right up on a bus where the DRAM chips slide in, and it's a bus right next to the CPUs on a board. That's RAM. So that was a 30 million times boost. And instead of going back on that network, I did all that work in RAM. I brought it in one read in RAM and did all that work in nanoseconds. Well, now what you're seeing with the release of the NVIDIA stuff this week, with Blackwell was before, you're seeing the chips clustered right next to the RAM. So the throughput to the RAM and the amount of RAM is huge. This gives a computing AI advantage to these architectures in the AI cloud in a level of sophistication to the military, in particular to militaries, to drones that are flying on their own, or F-35s that are now flying on their own. I think the guy ejected and the F-35 was flying itself. Okay.
And landed.
Yeah.
Safely landed, and they had to send a helo out to like get the guy. That's what that was. Wow. Yes. I thought, well, what was it? Did it land safely, or did the plane crash and you guys went out to get him? So wow, that's what happened. That makes sense.
Yeah, saved us a lot of taxpayer dollars.
Thank you.
But I mean, this conversation, there were some BCI. Okay, so all of these things, the BCI and all the things are in the phone company with forecasts that I have of when is the landline going to die? When is the cell phone going to die? Okay. And I have trajectories. I had the landline beginning to die around 2025. I have this dying around 2030.
Wow.
And BCI. So what did Scott do with BCI? You were talking about these things a minute ago that people were asking. I had a NeuroSky headset that Judy Spitz bought me with software from UC Berkeley. It was created by the UC Berkeley team that created NeuroSky. Has 3 chips, one on your ear and one on your forehead and one on your head. Anyway, 3 chips, ASIC chips. And what my goal was, and what they made me do, was they wanted me to think my password. And so this headset was $500. The software was another $100 when you bought a bundled. It was $600. There were other systems like Emotive that had 16 chips. And then there was Theodore Berger and these other people where they had these headsets and they had hundreds of chips.
Jesus.
And they were reverse engineering different things. Okay. So Theodore Berger is the godfather of all of this.
Different things.
Okay. Yeah, he's the godfather of all of this. So how this starts with the first neural circuit chip in Oakland on the telephone poles with the surveillance cameras, because as a human being, you can be in a crowd of people and a gunshot fires and you know what direction it comes from.
Right.
And he took that circuit and put it on an electronic chip. And after he put on the electronic chip, they had it interface to the cameras in Oakland, and they were able to use the cameras to find when people committed crimes with guns and lower the incidence of violence there in Oakland. It was now they're in a lot of cities. That's where it started. So then what is he doing? He did these technologies. He was working with rats and tracing brain communication, tracing the signaling between your brain and the other components of your body, the communication of it. Okay, that's what that man was doing. He went from there to DARPA and he went black. Part of what that was about, and you can see there's an implant that this lady has, and she's eating a candy bar with a robotic arm. It's on the internet. You can see it. And also the one physicist, I forget his name, Steve, he was in a wheelchair. He was a paraplegic. He had it in his head. He used it to type and do things. He was a physicist.
Wow.
Anyway, the reason that he was supposed to go into the DARPA projects was because of wounded soldiers. One of the things that they wanted to be able to do with wounded soldiers was to give them their life back, especially ones that lost limbs, use the BCI to help them. And so thus the lady with a candy bar. Well, that evolved. Okay. This was way before Elon Musk. Wow. There's no Elon Musk. There's no Neuralink, nothing.
Damn.
Well, those implants were defective because what happened was they would degrade and the neurons would degrade. They would take it out and re-stick one in. So along comes Elon Musk and he comes up with probes. Oh, by the way, I'm in the middle of all of this because I'm drawing Visio diagrams of, look, let's make some BCI. I'm like, the EEG doesn't work well and we can have some BCI things. And I've got the Visio diagrams of how to do these kind of things with these electrodes. I'm like, this is going to be the wave of the future. So then here comes Elon Musk. And then the next thing you know, you got Neuralink and the Da Vinci surgeon system that is better than a surgeon's eyes, that can implant the electrodes so that they don't damage the neurons. So you don't have to keep doing this over and over again. And now it's wireless charging. And the next thing you got Neuralink. And now you've got several patients that have been successfully implanted. And well, here we are at the crossroads of Kurzweil singularity with what happens when you start doing the brain computer interfacing, the BCI. We're at 2.0 and 3.0, and there's another one that just came out. It's wafer thin. And it's this Bix thing, and they implant it, and it also is chargeable, and it does similar types of things. And they had another one that was implantable where they went in a cath lab and it came up in the capillaries of the brain where they typically look at people who've had strokes and whatnot, and they put an implant in that way. So these technologies are going to happen as part of the singularity. And, it's a whole new level of interfacing, and we're not talking about a molecular thing where I put a compound in you like graphene oxide and have limited capability. We're talking about full-fledged intelligence and communications and convergence relative to singularity, where my brain has access to search things in a giant knowledge base outside my skull. Or I can take a math problem on a test and I could say, tell me what it is in the cloud and come back. That's what this is. So at the time I evaluated the NeuroSky, I was like, it's not ready. It's not ready, and it's not ready for prime time. But I did make a thing because part of this involved your blinking of your eyes and whatnot. Incredible. I made a login where you could use a combination lock for your username and a combination lock for your password and log into an application. And then I did some other fun things. One of the fun things I can make you laugh. I wrote this. So I got in trouble. I probably got in trouble for this. I don't even know. Maybe I wrote something called eZombie. It was a screensaver. And eZombie, what it was a screensaver called the Zombie. And it would act like it was working in Word or Excel and shuffling through files and typing and whatnot. While maybe I was at a long lunch or I was tired that day and took a nap. So one of the things that happens in these big companies, if your screensaver goes on, it triggers your Teams or your social media that says that you're away. And if you have a manager that's upset with you, that manager might be tracking how long you go to lunch and when you're away from your desk and all that, because they want to fire you or it's time for a review and they want to give you a review and you're like, you've been messing around and all this stuff. So I wrote the eZombie, and it was literally it was a screensaver that was busy doing work as a zombie. It was a zombie process while you were gone. It wasn't. Anyway, I can take advantage of these things as from a black hat side. I can take this hat off. There's a black one over there, but I'm a white hat. So this is where we are with this level of warfare. And
wow,
we have to be cognizant of it as much as we have to be cognizant of development of super soldiers from our DNA code.
Right.
And development of AI robotic super soldiers, which was the subject of a 2006 white paper I wrote for Vint Cerf. It was called the Evolution of the Internet Protocol.
So what do you think of the Venezuelan raid where they went in and hit that with no,
I think that
and unbelievable.
I think like Cuba, FAFO, they got a big dose of FAFO. And, we talked about Venezuela and we talked about the problems they had there economically. It's embarrassing. I mean, when your cars are 56 Chevy, 57 Chevy and all these, you don't have any technology. You might have a few things. You might be able to point a microwave at somebody. Anybody can do that. But these countries don't stand a chance against our high tech. Now, I'm concerned about Iran situation because we are seeing missiles. We're seeing a huge amount of missiles, and it smells like a lot of things that Russia and China have given them.
Yes.
For oil.
And still are. I think Russia's sending stuff across the border. They're calling it humanitarian aid, but it's coming through like tons of trucks. And they're definitely resupplying them.
Yep. And so I think with Venezuela, we had a couple of advantages. We were able to surround them and corner them. And then we used some of our technology to go in and take their president, who was surrounded by Cuban bodyguards. Right. Remember, we talked about some of these things where they happen. I told you Cuba was in there running the show. Yeah. 35 Cuban bodyguards. No, you can't leave. Oh, they got a rude awakening when it came to our kind of technology and what we can do in the battlefield, and we didn't even have to fight a war there. Okay, and so I don't know where things are going.
Cuba will be won't be a shot fired, and we'll convert them.
It's a sad story. So I used to get Monte Cristo number 2s, and
you talked about this. It's pretty cool.
Okay, I have relatives from there. I got a box of Cohibas right here with the stamps on it out of the back door of the cigar factory. That was before Castro started with the dollars. And it's a shame to see what has been done to human life in such a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Where these people have weather and resources. It's really a shame to see all the things that have happened. So they haven't evolved with us. They're living back in the 50s.
Yeah.
And what is disgusting is
Castro took over CIA raid, and that didn't go well. So yeah, they got stuck.
Well, mistakes were made with Batista and wanting to go and do things in the northern Cuba relative to oil. The Gulf area there off of the island is a place where you can drill and get oil. In North Cuba, there's also crude oil there. It's crude. It's not refined. It's crude. So they have crude oil there. They just can't refine it. So they can't really do anything. They have to give what they do have. They basically have to give it over to somebody as a refinery.
I've never heard that, but now that you've leaked that, probably everybody's going to be like, "That's why."
No, I didn't leak it. It's known. It's known. So when that happened was George Bush Sr., along with the other oil folks,
right,
that were around, Lyndon B. Johnson, worked a deal where they were promised access to those oil fields. And that is when they said, okay, well, because they were trying to kill Castro. This all goes back. I have family from Louisiana. I have a lot of friends from over there.
Yeah.
This goes back over there in that area of the country, Louisiana and Texas. And they said, okay, well, we're not going to try to kill Castro with this vaccine that came from Judith Baker that they killed 28 prisoners with in Louisiana, right? They decided, oh, well, we'll use them for the oil, and then things turned communist on them. And a lot of Americans in other parts of the country don't understand, but a lot of Cuban people with lines into Cuba understand. My grandmother was tortured by her communist parents with shock treatment. I know a number of people that have been tortured like that, females, and the culture that you have there. Now they've been beaten down to nothing, but it was different in the 50s and 60s when you had American access there with the casinos.
Yep.
My friend, Carlos de Quesada, him and his family left there. His dad was one of the founders of Gatorade, but he went down there with Jesse Ventura and was going to give $3 million of cattle with the Likes family for people that were poor back in the 2000s.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They stopped because they found out that Castro was going to give all that to the military and just nothing. So these people haven't been allowed to evolve. So I'm sure that if Marco Rubio, which I know is over at Mar-a-Lago on the other side of the coast here, he goes and gets it done, that a lot of people that are here in the state of Florida and also in Miami will help those people. And I know people that have wanted to go down there with car dealerships. Okay, just car transportation.
Sure.
And of course, that you talk about phone abuse and communication abuse. As a result of the Cessnas and Brothers in Arms incident and all of that, Castro had a tax on phone calls. And it was the highest taxed phone call that you could make internationally in the United States from those Cubans. It was just outrageous. So, people, even though they had we were one of the first, Verizon and Sprint were some of the first to go down there and offer cell communications when the Castro regime allowed it.
Yeah.
But it was just absurd. It was absurd. So, I know people Mark Valeni, a friend of mine, went down there and built all those docks that 107's always talking about out of the port here, with Eisner and the other groups, Meisner and the Marine and the other groups, they built all that. I've got other people that I know that are older that were there. They worked in Guantanamo in the 70s and 60s, and they're now, you know, very much anticipating with other people in Miami the ability to go down there and clean it all up. And the same thing with James Martinez in 107. So James is a friend of mine. So I sent Allicin V to the president of the Congo. And they have it. And I'd love to be able to, because University of Havana Medical School at one time was a premier medical school. Dr. De Quesada was there. Other doctors that came here went to University of Florida and other places. These are cultures that have learned how to survive on plant technologies. And also, the other thing that came out we saw recently was a guy that admitted that he flew in with Cessnas for the CIA and in the 60s and just basically dumped the lime ticks all over the guys in the sugarcane fields while they were working to cut off their food. When that whole thing was going down, came in slow, and they were just dropping Lyme disease ticks all over the friggin' all over the Cubans while they're just growing sugarcane.
Jesus, yeah.
So I would like to see
damn Nazis.
I would like to see that change. I have a lot of people. They used to go down there. I would get cigars, and now in Tampa, there's a lot of cigar history in Tampa. So there's also a lot of mob interest in that casinos over there that they took in the property. And those guys their families are over here. They're my generation now. Their parents and grandparents is who got robbed. Yeah. So those people have an interest in going back and doing things. And, I don't know my relatives that are there. I have relatives that are there on that island. I don't know who they are. I just know that I look on 23andMe and I see they're in Cuba.
Yeah.
And I see the names. And so I'd like to see that. I'd like to see it for the sake of the people that are there, and humanity, and it's a humanitarian thing. I would like to see them evolve into something better in these other countries too. Not what they have now.
Yeah. So you mentioned Allicin V. So let's kind of segue a little bit into that. So let me pull up your X account, and then we'll go to your website. I thought I had it up.
Sure, there's some new developments there.
Yeah, I mean, the X, I was just running through that. Now, I've had a little bit of a cough for several days. I thought my immune system would kick it. I do all kind of like stuff. And I was like, I'm going to have Scott on. I'm going to do Allicin V. So I did it this morning. I was coughing this morning like crazy. I did Allicin V. And as you guys can hear, I've been doing shows for several days, and I cough, throughout the show. And I haven't coughed once. So Allicin V is the real deal. It's quite incredible. Now, we've had shows where you've talked about how it is better than pretty much anything that's out there. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, where we are, there's been some new developments. Of course, the website has been updated. One of the things that we've done,
you got hacked. So yeah, I'm glad you got it back up. Good job.
Oh well, no, the website was never hacked. The store was hacked. The store was hacked last July for a month. We now have an eBay store as well as a result of that. We have a mirror store. The problem with eBay is they make you pay tax on food. The store got hacked by some people inside the company that I paid to host me. self-impaled, and the self-impalement, and you pay these people to do things, and you have service level agreements, and then people inside the company, they just, they damage your store, your business. So I stood up an eBay store. So whenever you search for Allicin V, you'll find the eBay store. What the developments are is 3 to 5 years, we were looking at spike proteins. And I always have this fun little model of a spike protein. And I talk about, what a spike protein is. It's this little thing on a virus. Well, there are a lot of viruses like this. Okay. HIV. It turns out the bacteria, Burgdorferi, Burberry, and, double B, because it's a hard name, and Lyme disease has this little spike protein on the bacteria. Ebola, anthrax, everywhere you look, there's a spike protein that's coated with sugar. Well, the glucose is camouflage, and it's an engineering design. So I have my engineering and camouflage egg here that I use for demo. What we learned from looking at research, GenBank sequences, crystal structures of 3 dimensions of these proteins, is that they are a lot like tires. Okay? They're round and they're rubber. One's big, one's small. Maybe one is white wall, one isn't. But what turns out, these things are rigid. They're rigid. And that rigidness is engineering design. It's not serendipitously or Wheel of Fortune. It's disulfide bridges. And the disulfide bridges are like rebar that make the concrete stronger. It makes these spike proteins strong. When you crack them open, it doesn't matter whether it's HIV or the spirochete from Lyme disease or anthrax. Now your body builds immunity. And the coolest thing, the absolute coolest thing about these things is that they are in GenBank in a family. So now what happens is when you do the Allicin V product, and I've always mentioned this, you do it 3 to 4 times a day. Let's say you have dogs and cats in your house.
Yep.
They have coronaviruses on them that don't affect you or harm you, but they crack open. And when they crack open, what they do is reveal this target. This target is called an epitope. That's a scientific term for an antibody target. And it's the same one as the SARS-CoV-2 virus that comes out of the lab. So now there's another virus that's 100% lethal. It's been documented. They already said, oh, it's 100% lethal. No, it is not. You didn't test with Allicin V, because the second you get that in your body and you crack it open, those antibodies have been learned, because you're a DNA-coded machine. You have machine learned it with your spleen, and you have that antibody, you activate it. And now what happens is you don't get sick. So where I am in Tampa, Florida right now, it's that time of year when the oak trees and the leaves are falling, and you got noodles everywhere, and the pollen levels are 100% across the board on all the levels. There's bacteria stuck to them. So yesterday morning I woke up. There are strategies. I woke up day before yesterday. My sinuses were clogged, and I sneezed. And I had some yellow. That's bacteria. Okay, it comes from pollen. What I do is I do the Allicin V. Part of the technology, part of this that you can't do is you're going to the lungs in 1 millisecond. That's 170 million times faster than you can digest anything. You're
vaping. So that vape gets it into you faster and better than any, because I hear a lot of people say, well, I ingest, I do this. And I'm like, nothing is better.
Nothing can beat this. So one of the things is I like to say real gas. I say real gas because the vape industry got a lot of damage when people were harmed with toxic things they put in their body from CBD and cannabis, and the gas stations and the Chinese that did this to us, and the synthetic cannabinoids that kill people.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Hey, the reason that I use this platform in a pandemic was because there's convenience stores and smoke shops all around the United States, and PPP wasn't an issue. But look, you don't need any PPP. You're operating at 60 angstroms with this technology. That's how big Allicin is. So one of the things with the sinuses, when you are stuffed up, so jammed up, and everything is there, you can't use a nasal pump sprayer with Vansinase or anything you need. So here's what you do. You inhale this first, 170 million times faster than anything oral, ivermectin. It coats your entire lungs. It treats them, and now it's in your blood. But some of it is still in the gas phase. So when you inhale, you pinch your nose. And then you inflate your sinuses. And the purpose of that is that deep in these pockets, in your sinus cavities and up here, and the ear canal, which you can cause you can cause this gas to go up your ear canal, it will dilate it. And now that it dilates it, especially if you've got a bacteria thing from the pollen outside, or you've been somewhere and you got it in your nose, now this is 80 proof Jack Daniels. And the key with 80 proof Jack Daniels is that before they had isopropyl alcohol swabs, they used to take a piece of cotton and some 80 proof alcohol and swab you before they gave you an injection. It turns out that there's a reason, because this doesn't inflame your mucous membranes. Now, when you pump spray this in your sinuses, and I'll do it to show you, this washes your sinuses. And you turn your head backwards, sideways, and it goes down your ear canal. Now, if you are infected and you are actually having infection in your sinuses that you can't tell, this will sting and it will burn you, and it will burn. And that's because the mucous membrane is inflamed with an infection. Well, in like this,
yeah.
In this, and I wanted to throw in the Cuddy Sark. I don't know if it's 80 proof, but Jack Daniels. I want to throw that in there because I never forget. Anyway, you pump spray this in. Okay, now the sugar that's in this from the fermentation process and the whiskey, it rebuilds your mucous membrane. So this is what happens after a day. The mucous membrane uses the sugar as the energy source. It rebuilds itself right away, and now you're not infected. It doesn't sting anymore. So this discovery went from somewhere around 39 years of colds that led to bleeding. I started with this. I went on a journey starting in 2006. Okay. A journey to try to get off antibiotics that were tearing up my GI tract. It caused me to bleed. It caused me to eat methylprednisone that gave me type 2 diabetes from steroid-induced diabetes. Okay. And other people go through this. I was on that journey. Okay. Then I took this and I modified it with Allicin in 2019, and I committed commerce. Now, what I told you, there were some developments. Because in 2019, I committed commerce. I am the inventor of this technology, and it doesn't matter whether I have a patent or not. No one can ever sue me. That's a fact under statute. Now, what has happened? There is an OIG investigation in the United States Patent Office because I went in the United States Patent Office as a white hat to protect them.
Wow. Good job.
To protect Americans. March 23rd, 2020, I go in the patent office because I'm suffocating with SARS-CoV-2. And this will not coat your lungs in 1 millisecond. It will get in your throat. It will get in your nose. That works, but it won't get down there. So I had to go to real gas technology. You don't just create this. Doesn't happen overnight. So I had the sequences to the Wuhan virus on February 1st. I knew what the targets were. I presented these to the Surgeon General of the state of Florida and his deputy director, Ken Shepke. Okay. I moved from there to this. Now, This is what the United States Patent Office has done to me. Okay. After spending a lot of money, all the money, pretty much every bit of money that I have made on this and my money that I saved in my retirement, okay, has been spent on this patent prosecution. This is what is going on, and I want Americans to know. The examiners, and it's all public information and pair, the examiners come back to me and they tried to compare a rectal salt that is shoved up somebody's rectum called niclosamide to my inhalation technology. Okay. So now they can explain that to the OIG, or a jury of their peers is coming for them, because this is why I'm tired of being lied to by people that have names that don't look like they're American born. I'm tired of it. Okay. And I'm not going to put up with it anymore. So they can tell it to a jury of the peers of people that are Americans that have had people die, okay, from vaccines. The other thing that happened during this prosecution, and okay, they couldn't come with anybody 1 year within the time that I committed commerce, which protects me by statute. They could not come with a patent. They came, and I've told you about spike proteins and envelope proteins. They came with somebody who published a paper September 16th, 2020, about a polymerase. Okay. I never mentioned polymerase anything. Polymerase means you've been infected already and it's trying to replicate on you. The whole idea is to shatter this and let the RNA spring out and get digested on your lungs, or crack these open and let the antibody engulf it with a white blood cell. No, that is not what happens. So now they admitted in writing during the prosecution that they knew that Allicin inhibited SARS and coronaviruses and SARS-CoV-2 before the release of the vaccines, December 2020. Okay, now these are the same people that knew about the vaccine patents. They knew about all the other patents. And I tell you, okay, I told you Attorney General Holder came at me for my patents. You think the government didn't have intelligence and knowledge, and there isn't classified people in the patent office interfacing to the intelligence groups and the other groups, and bio threats and bio war threats and chemical warfare weapon threats and weapon threats? They're there. I'm telling you, they're there. So as an American, okay, I am prepared to defend this technology because I broke free of getting colds like this. I don't have the doctor bills anymore. I had one of the worst bills I ever had was a $15,000 bill where I had a PET scan and a morphine shot after Claritin D caused the 4th kidney stone in 2013. And I'm not eating the Claritin D anymore. I'm not eating all that junk. So now that has occurred. Well, the new tab that is on the website that you were showing is a cancer health tab. So what do we know now? January this year, paper comes out. You had a severe case of long COVID, possibly hospitalized. You now have a 24% increased chance of having lung cancer. And that is a video of what's at the website. If you go to the website, there's a tab. It's called Cancer Health. If you want to go up your search bar and go www.allicinv.com, that's a searchable. X is a searchable knowledge base timeline where we cite all the papers and all the things we discussed. We put them there for people to see. We show the sources. We did 3 to 5 years of coming up with all these viruses I told you about. And then after that, we leverage AI. There you go. Cancer Health is right there. It's numbered. Antipathogen technology talks about coronaviruses. This talks about cancer health. This tells you what cancer is. Okay. What cancer is a disease that affects the cell programming of a normal cell in your body that takes it from, it was discovered by my colleague, Dr. Tisha DeLange, NY Rockefeller, 1994. Any toxin, whether it's a virus, arsenic, you've been hit with gamma rays from a UFO or, Havana syndrome, no matter what it is, people that are upset about 5G, you've been hit, you have either way. Now what happens is you go 50 cell divisions and either that cell dies, it dies and it gets cleaned up as a normal cleanup process, or it becomes a cancer cell programming and becomes immortal and grows into a tumor and starts sucking on you. Somebody put a vampire. No, those are the vampires. They suck your energy. Okay. They suck on your energy. So I saw today there was an ivermectin clinical trial and fenbendazole. With cancer, okay, the Allicin has been proven in clinical trials in China, in Nanking University. Now that citation, do you think they bothered to put in a Western journal? No, they went, what did they do? They went into the European Union Patent Office through the PCT treaty backdoor in the United States Patent Office with injections into your tumors. They proved that it is better than Taxol. Okay? They proved that. Now, you and I, and the average American, isn't walking around with the MRI machine and going to give themselves shots 20 times a day into the tumors. It's not going to happen. So with this, you inhale this 20 times a day. It goes through your pulmonary tract into your blood, which is feeding all the sugar and energy to the tumors, the glucose, and the proteins and other things that the tumors are sucking. They grow capillaries. It's called angiogenesis and tumorigenesis, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they suck more energy out of you. So when you couple this Allicin with selenium, you should slow down protein translation of those tumors with selenium. Now you hit somebody with ivermectin or fenbendazole or mebendazole or any of those, and now you shut off the energy pathways. You've got a cocktail. And when you're in a cocktail mode, you have people go in remission. So we've had people in stage 4 go in remission. We've had people during COVID-19 go in remission. And that came out of the ER in Texas. And I'm hoping soon there will be a paper. This winter, that ER did a study where all their people used Allicin V, and 100% of their people.
Well, how many times effective is Allicin V than ivermectin? You said that one time. It's like crazy number.
170 million times faster than anything oral. Okay. That's because this goes 1 millisecond to the lungs. I used to quote 100 million, but it's 170. I'll tell you how you get into that number. You're on the lungs, the battleground for respiratory pathogens in a biowarfare world in 1 millisecond. If I want to get something oral into my body, I have to eat it. It has to go through the digestive tract and be absorbed in. That digestion process takes 48 hours. Now, beyond that, and why I'm confident saying these numbers, that does not mean that ivermectin is 100% absorbed into your blood. Okay? Fenbendazole and ivermectin, these other drugs, have a solubility problem where they go through you in the toilet bowl. The same thing, and it's in our patent, is losartan, a blood pressure medication. Losartan is 25% soluble. For every dollar you spend on losartan, you throw 75 cents in the toilet. Only 25% comes into you to make it to the lungs. So in our patent, there's 6 formulas. One of those is losartan and coconut oil suspended. And one pill of 100 milligrams that would last you one day that you ate, lasts you a month in vapor form, because you inhale it, you put on your lungs. We go and look at the losartan paper. Okay, here's losartan. Losartan is this, and there's a losartan comparison to Allicin. And we show you that Allicin, when it goes on your lungs and you don't have any viruses or anything, you're just using it for cardiovascular health, will downregulate ACE2 right on your lungs. ACE2 is one of the protein receptors that toggles between your lungs and your kidneys to control your blood pressure. So you take your blood pressure with an Omron, like I do, and we've demonstrated this in the patent. We demonstrated you take it. This is a 510K certified blood pressure machine. We've done this 82-year-olds. You can't modify the data. You take your blood pressure. You do the Allicin V. You wait 20 minutes to take your blood pressure again. Now, depending on your health and condition and lifestyle, if you have a good diet and you're trying to get healthy, it will quickly lower. I'm 58. It will lower my blood pressure to 18 years old. When that happens, my body very much is 58, but I feel like I'm 18. And as a diabetic with hypertension, and I'm not eating Losartan, I eat lisinopril, and it gives me a dry cough. That's where I get my cough from, lisinopril. It takes that load off your kidneys. And also works the antioxidant in your endothelial tissue and the lining of your circulatory system. And as it heats up, it gets darker. Okay? It gets darker, and I've talked about this. That darkness is what you get in the frying pan when you cook garlic. It's called ahoine. It is also a cardiovascular blood thinner that keeps you from getting the white clots that the pallbearers, or not the pallbearers, the embalmers keep talking about worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
The ahoine is a blood thinner. So they work together, but the way you use this technology as somebody who's just shielding, okay, I'm healthy, I don't have any problems, I use it three or four times a day to shield and build immunity, and I go places and I don't wear a 2-micron mask, and I'm not going to get hurt. So this ER, for the first time in history, they evaluated the product and went through this winter with no illness. A whole ER staff with doctors and nurses. So we would like to work with people. I think Dr. Makis, I saw his post, and I'm like, hey, let's collect more data. Let's work together, because the one person that we know had stage 4 prostate cancer that metastasized used the Allicin V product with the selenium, 200 micrograms a day for a male. It's a cheat code. Selenium's a cheat code. That's Dr. Ethan Taylor's work. 100 for women, right? Or you can eat Brazil nuts, but it's cheaper to just buy the Carlisle Group product. And the fenbendazole. Because a lot of people that eat ivermectin at high dose, I'm not saying he tried it, but what happened was the side effect he had was upset stomach and diarrhea. So it's a side effect of the ivermectin. With this product, you're not getting sick. When you take an oral product like ivermectin or these other products with any kind of pathogen, like a coronavirus, it's sugar-coated. It's stealing your energy. That's why ivermectin and fenbendazole help you with coronavirus. That's why they help you with cancer. That's why you cocktail them with these other strategies, so that way you stop this theft of energy. You stop it. It's harder in children because children are growing, and adults, you're not growing anymore. You need your energy, especially if you're 82 years old. So that's how these things work. And so that person that had stage 4 was cleared by the Cleveland Clinic. And believe me, that person care less. Christmas Day when he woke up, 2025, cancer-free. Had been cancer-free now for almost a year. That person was got his life back. No more death, black cloud, no more Grim Reaper. And so I am an open kind of person. I don't lie. There's no lying in science. If you lie in science, you're going to get caught. Okay. Things that some patriot's going to get you on a dark night when you least expect it. But the point is, don't lie in science. I was taught first week in grad school for chemistry, they read you the Riot Act about lying and all this stuff. And then, Anthony Fauci comes. and you see it. Anyway, I am for collecting data and doing the things that take burden off your life. So the crazy things that I was doing where I was eating Claritin D every day. I was taking a shot of cold medicine every night so I don't wake up in the morning. It was that bad. The antibiotics, it was that bad. I mean, you have a 3-year-old daughter bringing home everything from daycare and you have these conditions. So some of us, I have bad genes. My wife, Julie, she doesn't get anything. Her DNA code, okay, is so good, and she's a nurse. So she gets nothing. But that isn't the way it is for me. Anyway, it is what it is. And this has a lot to do with some of us. Our DNA code has us at a disposition against the pathogens that are natural or designed, especially if they're designed. Then if we've eaten medications to help us for chronic conditions or something as a result of that DNA code, and now we've had organ damage, we're even more susceptible. And so, I was talking to your friend Scott McKay, and he asked me about the war on our DNA and the Q posts and what it is, and this is where we are.
Yeah.
With the machines and the AI, the cyber, and our own machine state, we're in that war. And the casualties, they're still occurring on a worldwide basis. That hasn't stopped. 24% increase in cancer from having long COVID or hospitalization. You're going to have lung cancer? That is a huge amount. That's a huge amount. So, this is why I do these things. But I did this for myself. This wasn't a business proposition. I was doing energy stuff and stuff with Dr. Shin on the cardiovascular when I left Verizon. And it just happened. So I'm grateful that this has happened. I am grateful we've helped thousands of people. It's a journey and it's not an easy one. So this year's goal is to make this product retail, and the Allicin V products or the Allicin M products, that's Allicin M there. Make these products retail so that the masses can get them, and then try to do bulk production so you can make maybe prices more affordable for people. But the biggest one that we're going to work on, this little device here, we're having a problem in the United States right now because people abuse technology. It's hard for Americans to get this now because it's abused. Okay. You have to be an adult, and now the counties are cutting this off because people want to sell illegal drugs and they want to harm people, right? They want to put fentanyl in your cannabis oil and whatever. The Chinese are enemies. They're here. Okay. Oh, I'm selling you CBD oil. This battery is somewhat easy to get, but this harder. So what do we want to do? We want to have a device that is an electronic frying pan that cooks this for you, that I can sell to a 95-year-old person that doesn't have to then go online and navigate to buy this highly restricted. So this device will not be designed. It will not really be designed for all these things. It will be designed for the person that wants to include the garlic essentials that we've hacked into in their diet and lifestyle. And then there's 400,000 plants on Earth. This isn't the only one. This is the first one. So yes, tobacco and cannabis and those things exist. What is this? This is a product in testing that improves your insulin levels. Okay, that is from Japan. And how many, cannabis, tobacco, How many other things are here that we have no data on that help us? So we need to be able to get these products to people, to collect the data, to allow them to incorporate it in their diet, so we can start collecting the data that we haven't collected before. But the biggest thing is when you get these, we have video testimonials from a lot of people. We put those up on the video sites. I think your friend Sean Casey's agreed to do one. We get emails from grandmothers. They're like, my grandbaby was going to have tubes in his ears, and he knocked this infection out, and the doctor was dumbfounded with Allicin V product. Okay. And I was right there on that door with all these infections when I was 7 or 8. Or we get letters from people that, they have spike antibody in them. They've gone and taken the test. They have spike antibody on them. It's above the level. You can have this done at LabCorp or Quest Labs or any diagnostics lab that can do a certified SARS-CoV-2 antibody test. They've either taken the vaccine or they've had COVID, and they just don't have it out of them, and they don't know how to detox. They go and do it. Now it's out of them, and they're like, wow, I can. Or the one lady that was referred to by my allergy specialist, the one that saw my blood work and everything and uses the technology. I'm getting referrals from these doctors now.
Nice.
And these patients I've been to the ER room 4 to 6 times. I couldn't breathe and they couldn't help me. They use the product. And they're like, I can breathe again.
Yep.
So we need to collect more data for the sake of humanity and well-being. You only have so much time in this particular avatar. Why not? And I've always said this, and I say this because we'd like to do some studies with companies on wellness and operational productivity. Don't take sick days. Take well days. Don't get sick anymore and miss work. Take a well day. Go fishing, go hiking in Tahoe over there. Do something fun and enjoy it. And certainly the dog days that I had were, people don't understand. It's hard to understand chronic illness when it leads to things like bleeding, and it's 98 degrees outside in Florida. You're inside under the quilts because you're chattering, because you're dehydrated, because you're bleeding from your GI tract and you're not absorbing fluids, or something of that nature, diabetes, all these things. You're on that journey on Earth in the human platform. Make the best of it. And so that's why this is why I went to graduate school in the area I did. It's not a lie. I went there because my uncle got irradiated working in the caves on von Braun's warheads with uranium, suffered health problems all his life. Hair fell off his body, took every kind of drugs from all these research hospitals. And I had other family members that died of cancer and all these other things. This is why I went in this area in the first place. And then I saw the kind of things that the organization that Anthony Fauci was doing from the top to the bottom then. So I knew it was happening again. I don't want it to happen anymore. It takes away from people that want to do science and work in the health area or medical area. It takes away from the average person, American. There's already enough cyber problems that Tulsi's told us about. There's already enough challenges in life with raising kids and relationships and all that. When you just clear this out of there, when you can clear some of these things out of there, you're not stuck in the bed over here at 2:30 in the afternoon with no energy running e-zombie screensaver. Where I was trying to take a 1 hour nap so you can get up and code some more and do some good things and help people on your company. And once it happens to you, it's just like the diet things with the people that have switched from, Coca-Cola, Mountain Dew, and the bonbons and Twinkies and all of that stuff. Once you switch over and find that, you get your life back, and then you can enjoy the landscape, and it's just a better way to be, man. And your strength. You can lift weights again. I'm not 30 years old or 23 years old, so I'm not going to be benching or squatting or curling as crazy as I was before when I was trying to hit softballs out of, different places that I lived, out of the parks. Or defend myself in the streets at some bar, wherever you are at that age, and you know how it is. But 58 now, it's you only have so much time on the planet in this platform, so try to enjoy it and be there for your family.
Well, we talked to like several different subjects, but we haven't gotten into hydrogen yet, so we have to have you back on to talk about that, because that's
been very controversial. I had about 1 million hits lately with everything that's going on in Iran right now. The oil situation. The oil situation is one that new things have occurred. I just filled my truck up, the golf cart at Sam's Club earlier. I hoarded a whole bunch of 93 octane for this all went down. I was like, I better hoard it now because hurricane season's coming, and the jet skis are back up and running. So you come to Florida, you will get to go jet skiing with me. We'll have fun. I'll take you. We'll go over by General Dynamics dry docks and all those areas, the cruise ships, and we'll go out there if you want. Anyway, the situation with the Strait of Hormuz. I had a LinkedIn post that got a lot of views and a lot of feedback. I grew up working on the docks. I've been on all these ships. I've been on oil tankers. I've been on oil barges, analyze oil with the GC systems and X-ray systems and all these things. And the problem I have is that these technologies that have been classified since 1954 in the Nautilus with SMR and the hydrogen use and oxygen use, mainly for the sailors, it was sequestered in top secret SMR for so long, nobody ever envisioned building the grids to build these fuels and enable them to run natural gas and propane equipment by mixing it with air that's 78% nitrogen. The Sasol plant over in Port Charles, Louisiana, where when oil gets above $80 a barrel, the Sasol Synfuel plant goes online. And this Synfuel is just like Mobil 1. Mobil 1 is a Fischer-Tropsch product. And it was Germany, World War II. Synthetic alpha olefin oils, it's a catalyst. It's a different catalyst. You make waxes, diesel, jet fuel, and all these things. And the point is that we're watching now people trapped in there, 3,200 ships. And for the sake of provisions, I've been truckload after truckload of provisions of food and medicine, food and water, and these other things that are needed for life. They're trapped there. They have no access. So they have no access, and that's a bad situation for people. They're just guys that work in that business. The chandlers can't deliver to them. And oh, by the way, in that region, there's a lot of food being shipped to other people in that region. And then there's desal plants being taken out. And the desal, they have a water problem in Tehran. They have a water problem in Saudi Arabia, which hired Waterrise to build that desal plant. That's the desal people. Before they built that, I was talking to them.
Wow.
They told me that they could not get the permits from the three groups, which are the Army Corps of Engineers, the state, and the local area there. the Rappian way tied to the EPA. And so they couldn't get the permitting from those people. And I got the permitting papers. I looked at them. You know what? It's basically for hydrogen. If a hydrogen pipeline explodes, there's no sea life killed. There's no oil slick. There's nothing that happens. So you look at the paperwork, it's all blanks. You just sign your name at the bottom. You sign who you are and your name at the bottom because it's all petroleum based. Well, I noticed the earth is covered by 70% of water. So the problems that we are addicted to oil. We're addicted to it. We cannot wake up. The majority of us, engineers and whatnot, they go to work and collect their paycheck, come home. They don't want to change things. And when we went into the highest level, okay, not me, we've got people that can go in the highest level of DC and the DOE and RPE and the government, no matter who's in the Oval Office. We go over there and we tell them, hey, you know about this technology? Because I went in the front door. I filled out all the paperwork. Oh, yeah, we know about it. All we care about is votes. That is the problem. The votes don't put the products, okay, they don't grow the food, they don't create the water, they don't create the manufacturing at the prices that we need to. So how did we get to 40 trillion in debt? How did our jobs go to China and these other countries? You talk about ivermectin and fenbendazole. We don't even make that in the United States. It's made in India and China. And the same ER doctors asking me, how can we get the prices down for ivermectin and fenbendazole? Here's how. We can start culturing the bacteria to make the ivermectin, and we can start making these things a home again with cheap energy, cheap water, and cheap manufacturing, because the paper dollar is toilet paper. It's not worth anything. It's not worth anything. So how we get to these wars and things, people are fighting over resources and materials, not just the insanity of I'm going to use nuclear weapons to harm people. That's a bad thing. Okay. Biologicals are in this. You're not hearing about them, but I guarantee you that they have a bunch of crazy biological weapons and nerve weapons and other things over there that you're not hearing about right now, on top of the nuclear, and people that want to use them on Americans. But Saudi Arabia and those other countries, that they're not bombing anybody or firing missiles all over. Or the other situation, which is year 2000, USS Cole, Harley Burke destroyer, pulls up to Yemen to fuel and port and gets hit. So this is a ship with 4 GELM 2500 turbines that runs all hydrogen mixes. So those KC-135 strato tankers that fuel our boys in the air and in theater, we use the nuclear submarines with SMR technology. We refurbish that. We create it for a non-military platform. And instead of running the Arleigh Burke and the other destroyers and bringing them into foreign ports where our boys get attacked while they're on leave, they leave and go to shore, or our ships get attacked, they never come into port anymore. And we fuel them using our technology, okay? And then if we choose to build the physical plants and do that for us, and that's a deep discussion we can have at another point in time, it's not our generations, because we're older, Mike. I see now, it's not just the prices, okay? It's the jobs that AI is going to take. AI is in this. AI is how we farm in the future, 24/7 by 365, using hydrogen-powered energy and water and robotics, instead of illegal aliens that came across the border with tuberculosis, and now you got screwworm in your beef and whatever else in your lettuce. You don't have that anymore. You have automated way. Okay. And then once we get our shit together, for lack of a better term, now we can go over to Venezuela and these other countries and say, look, let us help you do what we did in an intelligent way to evolve, instead of instead of trying to repress them some religious way that doesn't seem logical in terms of what the human charter is. And, one nation indivisible, where we go one, we go all. I'm an American, I'm a white hat patriot, so I'm America first. But look, if we can't do it for ourselves, how in the world could we go to some other culture and sit down at a table and talk some sense into their head that this is all killing our children and damaging the earth? I don't know how we could do that if we can't do it for ourselves, because they probably look at us and they're like, oh, the American clowns are back trying to sell us some shiny metal object and then, beat us with $1 or whatever it is. I think we've got to go past that. So when you want to have that discussion, we can go there, because there's that area. It's evolving. It is evolving, but the demand and the problems affiliated with it are evolving. So you got to be tired of seeing the Fords and the Chryslers and the GMs on the car lot rotting. Okay. The transportation is going to evolve and the other things. There's new engines out for all these things. But look, we got ourselves into this by playing a King of the Mountain game that's a Monopoly game that puts us against each other. It puts us against each other. So we fight with each other and we compete with each other instead of working with each other to all evolve together, so that we're educated and so that we can spend our time doing things other than fighting with each other, like solving some of these problems and make the food cheap. Well, food at this point, in my opinion, in the beginning of all this, water and food was free.
Yeah.
Water and food should be free. It should be free. And we cannot figure that out. So that tells you that's the energy problem right there. That's why hydrogen, that's why you're not going to manage populations of 9 billion people on a space rock until you evolve to that ability. And then the tension will drop down and people can focus on the more important aspects of cultures. Even though they're diversified, most of these cultures are born under the 13 religions and the positive things about humanity, instead of training people to kill each other and then going and doing it. So I broke free. I told you how I broke free of the colds. We need to break free. We need to break free of our addiction to the oils and the other stuff, and then help people that are out in the streets that they don't have a home or a place to live. Fix that. Our veterans, people that are out there because they're, it's disgusting, and help other people. This is the only way. Otherwise, it's mutually assured destruction. And whoever survives at the King of the Mountain there will pretty much be the only ones around. It'll be pretty boring, like that TV show where the last guy left. That's my thoughts on this hydrogen subject.
Yeah, hydrogen is a huge answer to a lot of stuff. It's amazing.
So I had somebody say, trying to tell me I was crazy, and it's just so simple. The sun is a hydrogen fusion star.
Yeah.
Okay? It's an amplifier. The Earth that we live in is 70% covered by hydrogen oxide. The reason that hydrogen oxide is in a weather system and we have an atmosphere is because of gravity. That's part of the equation that I came up with. So the plants that got put down, they were coded to run and live in the hydrogen world. So they put those down first, and it doesn't matter what religion, put down first. They're older than us, and put down the animal code. Now the DNA code gives rise to sentient conscious being. That level of engineering is way beyond humans, as I explained many times before. No human has ever coded a plant from scratch. Yes, we crossbreed them. Yes, we genetically GMO them, but we never created one from scratch to be unique. So these things we need to observe.
Yep.
We need to embrace, and now we need to put things behind us in terms of foolishness and stupidity for the sake of future generations. We have to do it. Otherwise, the chaos level and the self-destruction will continue on this path as we're observing innocent people's lives be taken in the Middle East right now.
Yeah.
Who have nothing to do with this. Probably there's people there. I mean, maybe there's some farmers there, you know. That's all they want to do is be a farmer. Great. But, you know, this is where we are. So between India and Pakistan, we've had a war. Kashmir, water situation. Out west United States, water situation. Fabs, farming, water situation. So they come together. The right energy technology is the right one that unlocks the water, and it's not petroleum or fusion by itself or nuclear by itself. You can use nuclear SMR, which is safe. It will power off in 10 hours on land. You're not going to have a Fukushima. Powers off 10 hours safely. Current SMR. That's why they flew the SMR thing out to the base in the Midwest on the C5 Galaxy to test it now. This is why we need to use SMR submerged. SMR is a mobile platform. Started with the G9 nuclear reactor in the Nautilus. Okay. That can be used as a source to make the hydrogen gravities used to do the RO in the deep water. If you don't want to do it that way, now what we've learned is there's a whole bunch of other technologies, plasma, that gives us amplification that needs to be scaled up. SMR, we can do. Plasma, we need to do this. And electrohydrodynamics in these systems, one of the coolest things we've been looking at is an understanding of Job 38, what happens in Job 38. So there's a comment in Job 38, 22, 23 that Stan Myers quoted us. Have you seen the treasures of the snow and the hail? Well, when you go outside and you look up and you see clouds, those clouds are extremely heavy. They're heavy. They're tons of water when they're raining come down. How's it happen? How does all that levitate? It's similar technology to the skin of these UFO craft. They are negatively charged. The ground is negatively charged, and they're like two negative poles of a magnet, and it levitates. These vesicles in the water form that. So these turbines, when we envisioned this technology and came out with the equation to do the buoyant leverage of the gravity that makes things more efficient in the desal and the water, these things didn't exist. We designed the system. The equation is designed. The system is designed. The patent claims are broad so that when people come out, now they're no longer sick. They're focused on this work. They're building it. There's going to be thousands of patents. There's going to be a lot of jobs. AI can play a role. AI isn't going to do it. This is a human thought still. Design it right, okay, and do the work and engineer it and solve the engineering problems and collect the data and learn how to build these physical plants where the missiles can't hit them at 5,000 feet deep. You're not going to come with a long rifle to the substation. No worries about hurricanes or tornadoes. I'm not worried about viruses or all these other type of things. Yes, that was a car. So if you've ever read the memoirs of Stan Myers, and I have the book right here, and I've read the entire book, his focus, Stan worked on the, before that, he worked on the Reagan Star Wars team. The whole focus of why he did that, why he went to the Pentagon, why he did all that work, was because of the 1970s embargo. Strategic Petroleum Reserve was able to hold 30 days of fuel for us to fight a war in theater. And the internal combustion engine, why he had the Doom Buggy. Now, he did create some other cool, novel things that I've replicated. But in his memoirs, and nothing there, is gravity. They not once talked about gravity at all. So what happened to me, and it's humorous, and there were white papers before this. It was about data centers and selling power as a service and being able to do this for customers so that you could sell them communication technologies and Internet of Things. These all things, what's current in AI now, there's energy problems with AI. Powering it, they're stealing resources from communities. They're stealing water from communities. All of these different things right now. It's eating in us in all over the United States. The people I know people that are in real estate that fund the building of super data centers. Okay. They cannot get power from the power companies, three-phase power to the location to build the data center. Like, it's a wonderful piece of property here. And the people in the power companies are telling them, well, we're gonna have to do a study for $154,000, and if we bring it to you, it's going to be $250 million. No, that doesn't work. So the ingenuity behind these things and the creation for the people that want to be employed and have jobs and do things that are constructive for the future generations. Okay, forget about this stuff with the video games and the playing and the horsing around for 1 second, and do something constructive for the future generations, so that now my water and food is free. My electric bill, which I'm scared to see what my electric bill is going to be between July and September this year. I know what it was like last year. They're not going down. People in Texas are getting absurd electric bills. California has blackouts on electric bills. We're having blackouts. We have to do this. We don't have a choice anymore. We're 40 years behind. So that is...
President Trump is opening it up too. So he's allowing that technology to come through.
Well, the thing that I do like is I've seen executive orders out of Trump. Last time in 45 and in 47, I see trickles of Chris Wright. I don't know what happened to the $7 billion of Biden dollars, which was going to go to 7 regional hydrogen facilities.
Wow.
It's gone nowhere. No, it went nowhere. I can tell you, and this is one of my favorite things, okay? The sun, it doesn't always shine, so solar panels don't always work. Snow, it doesn't help. And wind doesn't always blow. So with these technologies, they run 24/7 by 365. Now, I can tell you that opportunity is one thing, but one of the things is these costs to build a gigawatt facility. Okay, a gigawatt facility off the coast of California, when we priced it in 2019 before things got wild, was around $3.3 billion. Because you didn't need to use a legacy. You could use a legacy pipeline there, or pipeline is extremely expensive in the Gulf, and the Gulf is too shallow. These areas, like the Pacific Ocean, near Catalina and these other places, are deep water. Okay, and you can build a physical plant there deep enough to do the work that you need to do, and then you can bring it up into those mountains and into the coast, because you create upwards of 1100 psi, which is what is done on the submarine. You bring this in, or you bring it in and convert it with air so it doesn't explode and detonate. You learn how to build these grids, you bore them in, you build them safer, but you can bring it in as this way. And then you bring this technology into the Midwest. If it's hydrogen, there's no cost of pumping. That desal plant in San Diego, 25%, there's a big 25% energy cost. When you do this in deep water, it's 40% more efficient. You don't need to do all that. You're doing it with a pressure that crushes a submarine at 5,000 feet. Submarines have depths. They can't go any deeper. Military can't go any deeper than the rating, or it'll crush like a tin can. That's pressure that does work when you engineer the physical plant to allow it to turn turbines to generate electricity, to then take that RO water and do electrolysis. And if it's plasma, you jump start it with hydrogen and oxygen. You do the plasma, then you build the turbines. You collect the energy. If you're just generating hydrogen, you can push that inland. Now the idea is, and I talked about this on Carrie when I held up the pyramid. Oh, there's been all kind of discoveries of things underneath the pyramids now.
Yep.
Why is the pyramid in the hydrogen world where it is? What is its purpose? What does it do? So we filed a patent. I'm going to be careful here and not reveal too many things, but
wow.
The Earth is a negatively grounded thing. There's electromagnetic fields.
Yeah.
Okay? That's how the clouds levitate. However, there's something else. There's an atmosphere. And the ionosphere is ionized. It's ionized by radiation from the sun, is positively charged. And there's quantum mechanics involved in this. Our atmosphere and nitrogen, when it becomes quantized, okay, it gives off an electrical discharge, and that's lightning. Okay? Now, water plays a role in these things. In the outer edge of tornadoes and hurricanes, we just saw them come through. And also space satellites that have the ability to put energy into these things and ionize them, which then results in lightning coming down. So in the case of the Great Pyramid, why all the water coming in there, and why the water? Okay. And the reason is because that hydrogen that was being produced was being pushed up on the top of the pyramid, and the sound waves, which were the granite banging up and down from the water hammer and the currents, was creating microwaves, and it was ionizing the hydrogen that was giving it lift, and the hydrogen is a donor to the nitrogen that then caused the potential to come down, and the skin of the pyramid is a capacitor. So it capacitates the energy. Call it Tesla, whatever you want, but this is the design and art. So then inside the big pyramid on the wall, you've got the guy holding the light bulb in his hand.
Right.
Writing on the wall, hey, look, we had a light bulb, and there's a picture of the guy, and they wrote it there. That technology, okay, on that macro scale design like that, was using material science for that era, that whomever taught those people how to do it in that position and that electromagnetic in that area of the planet was designed for the hydrogen world in that era. I'm talking about using solid state electronics and high-end computing and stuff that we've used in weapon platforms, because nuclear submarines are a weapon platform. It has an obvious advantage of not having to surface, and people can go under the water for 20 years with the PEM systems, the GERO package, and the Treadwell Corporation PEM system. These technologies, the reason they were hidden was because they gave us an advantage. They still to this day give us an advantage in theater to maintain our freedoms. However, we've done so many stupid things with this offshoring of jobs and electronics and everything else, that we now need to take this technology. So all through this, 2006 up into 2008, oil was $140 a barrel. Verizon bought MCI WorldCom. Okay, and we came in there and we had the second largest fleet, and we blew first quarter 2008 numbers, and we reported to Wall Street because our gas bill was so high, our energy bill was so high, we couldn't beat the numbers. This is something that I was working on back there. Into this, yes, there's the picture. It's on the wall. It's on the wall. It's there. It's like, have you ever seen these shrimpers out in the Gulf? They're shrimping and they have fluorescent light bulbs up on their masts. And every time they talk and broadcast VHF, it does a harmonic energy resonance with a light bulb like that, and it illuminates. It illuminates while they're talking on the VHF, and it attracts fish. And then they drop their nets, and the fish see all this light flickering. They get all excited. They come to the light, and then they drop the nets and they drag on them, and that's how they catch or shrimp, but mainly fish. Or people see them from the sky, and they're like, "What is all that weird water light out there?" And those are the fishermen attracting the fish at night. So MH370 falls out of the sky, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, why aren't we sending all the high-tech nuclear subs over there? And I find out it's 13,000 feet, and Virginia and Ohio class submarines are like 5,500 feet, and then that's their rating. And then things start happening. Like one of my friends used to own AudioVox, and the companies I worked for, and the marine company I worked for, my dad was a ship chandler for him. Jerry Spalding was on. He used to be in the World War II subs. They had piano wire across the front. This is how they saw when they were so low. They were back there in the North Sea with the Russians dropping the depth charges. Okay. And they took the submarine. They went below the rated depth. It was like 2,000 feet. They were like down 2,200 feet because they were below spec, and they didn't have a choice. The piano wire on the bow, they had piano wire, and they could see it with a periscope, and it would start to go like this. They knew the sub was starting to compress. Anyway, these stories come from the years, but that happened, and then I had a download. So I get metaphysical downloads just from relaxing, concentrating, thinking about solving these problems. Okay. And it played like a movie in my head. And what played was the military thing that you can't see anymore, talking about the Ohio class submarine and the two PIMs in it from Treadwell, and the RO, all the telco stuff, all the Stanley Meyer stuff. It just played like a movie in my head, the whole thing. And at the end of this was the Job 38 was in this, the thing. Mm-hmm. It was why isn't this solved? And we as humans have only mastered 5% of the oceans, yet we're sending Mars rovers to Mars. Why aren't we fixing what we have here? Something's wrong. That led me to the first white paper. That led me to the equation. 3 white papers in led me to the equation and the architectural designs that are now 5 U.S. patents. The 6th one has been filed, is an amplifier. And what this amplifier does is, you thought the big Pyramid of Giza was something special? Huh. Wait till you see this amplifier. This one is a modern one, like a substation, and I can put 10 of them. I can put 10 of them in the cornfields of Iowa and Nebraska and all these places in the fields, and I can draw energy down and amplify it and pump it into the grid.
Wow.
And now do it in a way, okay, we're talking about, I can demonstrate this, okay? If this, how we do these things when we teach people in chemistry, we teach them the phenomena of this with hydrogen. You see it every day. You see neon light. A neon light is a light with neon that's ionized. So these gases can ionize, okay? And instead of doing them in a container now, I'm doing them out in the open, like on the top of the pyramid, or when I see a lightning bolt come down, or these Tesla energies that are weakly tapping into the ionosphere.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking about not Wardenclyffe. I'm talking about technology that has to be created and engineered. Yes, there's going to be some growing pains on doing this kind of thing. There always is. Yes, there's going to be expense, but the point there is that $3.3 billion to build that physical plant off the coast of California. Okay, it's expensive. Now it's probably a lot more. Okay, that's why we were laughing at the $7 billion number Kamala was squawking to everybody. We were laughing. We're like, what is this? This is a joke. People in Houston that actually build these plants, they were laughing. Okay, they were laughing because they knew how much money they had already spent, and they knew how long it was going to take them to do it. So it was humorous in the community in the countries that do this. This week we learned that Germany has $5 billion EU fund to do this in Germany, and we learned that Kawasaki themselves has entered into the shipping transportation business to build engines for this ships, like the ones that are stuck over there in the Strait of Hormuz. So there is a lot of opportunity for people that want to have jobs from all different kind of things to do these things, everything from truck drivers to welders to people administrating it. This is an opportunity for us to do something that lowers the electric bill and water bill and the food bill, but gives something back to our generations that are coming into this blind and don't have an idea of what it's like to go without food or these other things, or the generations that are like perfect place, Cuba. As soon as I saw that, I was like, look, I'm in. Set up the fund. We'll go down there. We'll build. They'll have water and cheap energy, and they'll start farming again. And then you know what it is. We'll get that sugar cane. We'll get the products from Cuba and open it up because I want my cigars. I quit smoking cigars when I had COVID. Now I haven't had a cigar since COVID, but I love them. I mean, they're all sitting. They're in that humidor. The point is that they can do that and contribute to us, and we can send some automobiles down there and start moving in the right direction again, instead of embargoes and chickpeas in my coffee and dark nights and all that stuff. And that's the whole idea of some of these things, or the inspirations behind them, or how they came to be. And it is a challenge, and the challenge for this has hit us all. So it's in every direction you learn or look at or learn about. It's always funding and money and bankers. Okay. So none of that was in the Garden of Eden. There was no dollars or bankers in that. Came in Genesis 6 and the fall and all these crazy things. And we turned down the wrong road. So I'm just looking to I'd like my life to be better, but I'm not stingy. I'm a white hat. I want for other Americans that work hard,
definitely,
or have worked hard. They've defended their country. They're now a veteran, or they're a retired person. because the Social Security system and Medicaid, that's all a lie. That's just fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And the generations coming, it's going to be worse for them. So.
Yep. Wow. I mean, I could listen to you for hours, and we have like almost 3
Well,
years.
That's what it is in the material.
Before we sign off, though, tell everyone about how to get the vape pen and the container to put the Allicin V in. So you have to be able to actually have a little container here for your vape.
Right. Today we sell these. We sell these on www.allicinv.com, ALLICINV.com. You can Google it. It's a trademark term. If you use our store, you use Jaco 7, that's your lucky number, and your audience will get 1 mil extra of product that we'll ship to them.
Wow. Thanks for that's cool.
We always have done that. So I mean, I am so thankful to Michael Jaco. You have saved. I want you to know, then your audience should thank you, because there's so many people in your audience that have used this technology, okay, and it's changed their lives. And I didn't even go into, and I know we're at the end of this, but just ask yourselves why Roman soldiers in 27 BC were eating this before they went in battle, dressed up in chain. I was teasing Scott because he has that knight in the back there. I was like, 27 BC Trojan warriors dressed up in armor. They're gnawing on this before they went in battle. Before they built that Great Pyramid, there's a little plaque on the outside. They used to eat this for breakfast. This is older than that pyramid. This is older than that. So we don't understand how this affects your code to create super stamina conditions at 4%. We certainly don't understand at 100% when I hacked it and made this. By the way, we don't sell the cartridges in this because of government regulations. We'll help you learn where to go get that. It's at every street corner, every smoke shop, online. It's available. You have to be an adult to do that. But this technology, Allicin M, it'll go in your throat and destroy you. You have Vibrio vulnificus or strep throat, 2 drops of this on your throat or your ear, viruses in your ear. This is not as strong as the M product. Okay. This is 3 to 4 times stronger than this product. This is made to be inhaled and works in the inhaled equipment. This is made to destroy psoriasis on your head if it's there.
Yeah.
It's made to destroy skin cancer if it's on your body. It's made to destroy Vibrio vulnificus from a spider bite and flesh-eating bacteria.
Wow.
That's what this does, Allicin M. It's not for vaping. It's super strong. This one you can put in the vape equipment. It'll work right. It has the right viscosity and does the right thing. So this has already happened. So it's a journey to get to the masses. And then there are, if you ask us in X or you email us, but go to X, it's a searchable knowledge base. A lot of people don't know this. That timeline's searchable. It has our posts and our discussions with people, and you can learn about the technologies and the papers and the research behind the things that were talked about today anytime you want. And if you have a question, we'll point you in that direction. We'll say, hey, look at this paper over here. But you can find them there. We don't have, this is one of the beauties of social media. It's a timeline. It tells a history of when we saw the paper and the different things. So, and people also come there, okay, and then they learn, and then they also learn about the tests at the different clinical chemistry tests that are FDA, AMA approved, all the tests for, different types of tests for your white blood cell counts, antibody tests, or we discuss about cancer oncology tests, or point you in the direction of, hey, go do this, so that you can then leverage your insurance that you pay for, if you have, or your Medicare, Medicaid, your physicians, to get well again. instead of in the loop of medication consumption, that if it's possible, because some things are beyond human knowledge, and this has happened for thousands of people. So the journey is come here to people like yourself who have an audience that are like-minded individuals that have trustworthiness, and in your audience have come to learn and trust you, and now they've seen, because of you and your audience, they, not me, because of you, your audience, and because the people that came and saw and had the experience now are experiencing it and living it in their everyday lives. And that's the truth, because I can't work in a silo, in a bubble, and not interact with people that are, they're influencers that are trying to help the average person. So without a multi-billion-dollar budget, which I obviously don't have, so I have to come.
It's like we lost him.
Oh, what happened? Oh, we're back.
There we go. Yep.
Good. Okay, we had a momentary lapse of reason. Anyway, my point is that doing the kinds of things that, and I appreciate you and a lot of your friends, 107, Scott McKay, Nino, all these. I'm a fan of you for knowledge, for these things that I don't have time to dig into and understand. And the people that you interview, I get so much knowledge from that. So what we are doing, mainstream media didn't help us learn these things. You know, what we're doing, what you have done and helped so many people this way, in this manner. It's not, it's just a plethora of things. Okay. A plethora of things, but the ones that did come and use the Jaco 7 code found out the truth. And so, you know, this is where we are in humanity right now. And hopefully, I sit here and watch, I listen, and I tell you, the thing with the counties and the bonds and all of that discussion is very interesting. And, you know, what's going on with silver and gold right now, we have to survive through. It's not just our health, it's, you know, our mental capacity to continue to support our families and our relatives and our children. And, you know, we all have these things going on. Many of us have relatives that are older, and my mom is not well, so I understand, compassionate to other people. And we'll get through it and evolve and get past it. So I appreciate everything you do, Mike. I really do.
Same with you. Yeah, you come on and you know, just expand us and also give us some insight. Wow, that pyramid stuff. Sounds like you really figured it out. That's incredible. How many patents do you have right now?
Oh, I don't know. I probably have like 22 or something like that. Not enough. Not enough because where I was and working, things were proprietary, and patents cost a lot of money.
Yep.
But as you move up into billion-dollar corporations in the Fortune 50, you learn that patents are a way to protect your intellectual property and do business amongst each other. You know, there was a $125 million lawsuit on Verizon set-top boxes. And that company was just some little guys in San Diego in the firmware. So it's important.
Cool. All right.
And tell Tracy I said hello. And
definitely.
Again, if you all feel like coming to Florida sometime, you know, I have friends over there.
Yeah, we'll be back. Yeah, we'll get together.
Nice talking to you.
Nice talking with you. Thanks.
Have a great evening.
You too.